Both Romulus and Vildred presented him with a choice of either learning combat techniques for various weapons or learning magic of the highest caliber. Both of these areas were the ones where Khan was severely lacking even now because in the end, everything he had till now was either because of his divine abilities or his blessings. Apart from the Dragon Strike, Khan hadn't created a single skill by himself. And even that attack skill became possible only because of the other skills Khan had acquired from different people and monsters which the system filtered and altered for his use. Because of your current shortcomings, you can't skip on studying either of the three unless you want to be killed by anyone above 5th stage Saint, said Romulus. Khan then responded in a somber voice. My dimensional domain came with divine ability. I thought it was perfect as it was. Vildred shook his head at Khan's obliviousness. It can't be helped. You must study and receive more enlightenment in space law. I can only teach you magic spells, skills, formations, and world energy. You have to do the rest by yourself, iterated the Dragon Emperor. As the Royal Dragon mentioned, there was still the study of space law. As Romulus stated before, his dimensional domain was simply too weak compared to other saints because his mastery and control were below average than a normal 5th stage saint. Hence, there were 3 different sectors Khan needed to cover up to get rid of his weaknesses and become truly strong. Let me tell you something, child. I'm 360 years old now. In here, everyone including my wife and children thinks that I'm a brawler class fighter. But I have hidden my past even from them. Back in the Abyss Empire, I was called the true battle king in my generation, because I invoked the interests of Mors, the deity of slaughter, and received his blessings. Spoke Romulus while emanating a warrior-like aura. Unlike many powerful saints in the world, I can actually practice and use many weapons, and I'm not restricted by a class when it comes to any method of slaughtering my enemies. Yet this is also the most obvious part of my identity that can be used to uncover my truth. That's why I'm hiding as a different person, name and profession. Many haven't even seen my real domain that you saw this morning. Magic may not be my forte, but I can surely train you in most of the weapons in the world. With your blessings from the great ancestral Lord Cravel, you have the potential to surpass even me. He iterated, but then his gaze turned serious. But that's all there is to it. You only have potential. It doesn't mean you actually can. The same is the case for many other heroes with divine abilities. That's why there are only 6 heroes in the past 3,000 who surpassed the native people of the world, including 2 of your predecessors. He revealed another fact about the past. So you will have to divert all of your attention on mastering them till you're with me. Also, you can't reveal your domain to anyone either. Given the time limit of 1 year when the tourney will start, you can only choose one side to train in. The rest is up to you, said the Wolfkin solemnly. Next, Rathnar's voice also resounded in Khan's mind. Brat, given the situation, I cannot teach you any of my skills either unless you become a 5th stage saint first. But what Romulus and Vildred said is indeed true. You can no longer put off your training in any of these aspects. Besides, you will be mentored by some of the best masters in the entire world. Vildred was once the strongest magician in the world. And this Romulus Lycaeus is the current apostle of slaughter. He is definitely one of the top 10 strongest 7th stage saints in the world because of the title and blessings. No matter which side you choose, you will receive great benefits, declared the peak saint. Vildred then asked Khan with a calm demeanor. So which one of the 2 do you want to train in? Khan's expression was filled with thoughtfulness as he ran down a few options in his mind. Finally, after making a decision, he spoke while revealing a shameless grin. Why not both? Both Romulus and Vildred had puzzled expressions on their faces after Khan's blatant question. Khan then chose to reveal all his 33 doppelgangers in front of both. Including the 7 he left in Zivet Empire, his current capacity was 40 doppelgangers. Khan had previously omitted this ability because it was one of his life-saving skills where he could switch between the doppelgangers instantly and even fake his death. Previously, under the influence of the domain of slaughter when facing Romulus, he had simply forgotten to use it since the domain itself broke his psyche and made him unable to think of this ability to survive. Vildred also didn't have much knowledge of this ability other than the memory of Khan leaving some of the doppelgangers in the Zivid Empire. But the hidden functions such as shared combat skills proficiency, techniques and skills with the original body was something both of them didn't know. Khan then explained how these abilities worked. But instead of becoming astonished, Vildred and Romulus said, "Do we look like idiots to you?" Romulus continued with a disappointed look. "You think learning through your doppelgangers will help you become stronger? Not in the slightest. Whether it's physical skills related to your profession or magic training, you will have to unlock and experience themselves." He spoke with a discontent voice. "Maybe that's why you haven't been able to progress further, because you're relying on your doppelgangers more than your own body. Some things and transformations cannot be skipped and you must undergo these experiences yourself," iterated Vildred while sighing. "You must even gain enlightenment and practice yourself first." The Wolfkin's voice echoed in the hall. After a dozen seconds, Vildred came with a proposition. "Let's do one thing. We both will teach you. You will learn and unlock these skills, abilities, and combat techniques by yourself first, like how it's actually supposed to happen instead of just relying on your divine abilities anymore. After learning and unlocking them by yourself first, you could leave them to your doppelgangers to increase combat mastery, proficiency, and effectiveness later." He revealed his plans. "But can you handle it? It will drastically drain you mentally," asked the Royal Dragon. But what both the Fenrirborn and the Royal Dragon didn't know was that, in terms of mental fortitude and perseverance when it came to psychological stress and resilience, thanks to his experience in the past 3 years, Khan was already way ahead than all the other summoned heroes. Finally, an arrangement was agreed upon. Romulus and Vildred were going to train Khan in regards for their respective fields. Rathnar was going to help him increase the strength of his domain with his past life experience. In his spare time, Khan was to study space law on his own when he wasn't training in these two fields. And finally, after spending more than 4 years inside Vantria ever since his arrival, under the guidance of 3 of the strongest people in the world, started Khan's real rise among the true powerhouses of the world. The following day, Atrus formally met the tribe elders of the Fenrirborn tribe, and as expected, all of them contained traces of the bloodline from Goodbeast Fenrir, albeit in very small amounts up to 15%. Atrus, on the other end, already had 70% of this bloodline, which also made him look more imposing and somewhat superior as per their basic instinct. Many of these tribe elders praised Romulus for finding such a gem and secretly training him for all these years without anyone noticing. Apart from Atrus, only Romulus Lycaeus, his new master, had 35% of Fenrir's bloodline. But unlike the people present here, he wasn't actually from the Nader Empire but was born in the Abyss Empire. Khan had no idea about the history of the empire that once served the god of darkness. But he found it unnecessary to inquire, especially from Romulus, since this was a sore spot for him due to the events of 300 years ago. He was more of a paying guest at the moment, so there was no need to dive deep into the landlord's personal life affairs. Besides, the supposed well-wisher of his was to answer all his questions once he came to meet Khan himself. So for now, prioritizing his advancements as per their previous arrangement was of the utmost importance than gathering information. In the afternoon, a warship arrived in the gladiator arena-like open grounds at the center of the fortress. And soon, 4 entities escorted by dozens of armored guards came out. However, the expressions of all these new arrivals were filled with discomfort, anger, and contempt. Everyone looked like they were thoroughly infuriated about something. After the meeting with tribe elders ended, these 4 figures entered the council hall and prostrated themselves in front of Romulus, who was sitting on his 2-meter-tall throne. "Is the mission I gave you all completed?" asked the fiery red wolfkin, who was seated like a tyrant. In response, all the newly arrived wolfkins nodded without speaking another word. Atrus was also present in the room and sat on one of the chairs. Today was supposed to be the first day of his training, but they were preoccupied with the tribe meeting and his introduction to all the elders and clan leaders under the Fenrirborn tribe. And now, he was just waiting for his new mentor's instructions. "Atrus, these are my disciples I told you about," spoke the peak 7th stage saint as he introduced these people. Boy, the strongest ones among them are fourth-stage saints just like you, including that female wolfkin. The other two are second and third-stage saints respectively," informed Rathnar. The blue wolfkin with glowing blue eyes and archaic runes ran through his chest, and the rest of the torso was astonished. Because all of these people were saints. To have 4 legitimate saints as his disciples. Looks like I undermined Romulus, thought Khan to himself. A saint was a backbone and a powerhouse for powerful clans with millions of people. Yet instead of living like top echelons, these saints were still downplaying themselves and kneeling in front of Romulus like obedient children. At this moment, Khan telepathically contacted the wolfkin. "What's the difference between them and your official disciple?" To his query, the wolfkin replied, "They're someone I was obligated to take in as the tribe leader after they met certain criteria and showed immense future prospects as per the tribe rules. Although none of them are brawler class, I was training them in perfecting their ways of war and honing their battle skills wholeheartedly. Trust me, they're all really good," he replied secretly while maintaining a stern expression in front of his disciples. Just then, one of the fourth-stage saints stood and spoke in a solemn tone. "Master, is he the shadow disciple I heard about on our way here?" asked a white wolfkin with a tall and mesomorphic build. Both his and Atrus' eyes locked in together as the latter sensed hostility. "If you allow us, let me test him," said the ripped-bodied wolfkin. He, just as I expected." Suddenly, one of the other disciple wolfkins with an ectomorphic build chuckled with a psychotic expression. "I'm of the same opinion, master," spoke the female warrior-like female wolfkin. Based on her appearance and demeanor, she was the prime example of muscle mommy. By the wolfkin standards, she was both beautiful and fierce like a domineering queen. Within the depth of her eyes, Atrus could feel that she looked at his entire existence as if she was looking at an insect from above. The other two who were weaker shared the same intent. "Well, that's to be expected. People here will respect you only if you're stronger than them. Your heritage and family background have no value in the Beast Empire after all," thought Khan in his mind. "Ha ha ha. Well, I saw this coming already," said the wolfkin as he laughed loudly. "I'll let you all spar and see if my choice was good or not," he declared. "And Atrus, you can go all out. Don't think of them as my disciples or your comrades. Think of them as your," he spoke, hinting something with his gaze. "I'll arrange the arena," he spoke and his figure flickered. 10 minutes later, all of them stood in the open grounds of an underground training facility. However, there were no other people, and the platform Atrus and others stood on was glowing with multicolored archaic runes. Whoosh! In the next moment, another figure appeared in the facility and stood behind Romulus. "Is it okay to let them fight? Aren't they all your disciples? Besides, when and where did you find him?" asked a pristine white female wolfkin who looked no different than an angelic existence. Yet her strength was of a peak 5th stage saintess. "Priscilla, my dear wife, you know I can't tell you that. Just think of it the same as your father finding me and making me his shadow disciple 80 years ago." He spoke while others were waiting but couldn't hear their words. "Well, you ended up winning the tribal tourney, then became the official disciple, and now you're the tribe leader after he passed away. But still, I need to know if this Atrus can be trusted." She spoke with a skeptical tone. "Well, only time will tell. I haven't offered him any reason to be loyal to us. Besides, there was a reason why I chose him," iterated the 7th stage saint. "What would that be?" asked Priscilla Lycaos, the lady of the Fenrir-born tribe. "He is needed to show them their shortcomings," replied the red wolfkin with a somber expression. Romulus looked at his 4 disciples with an incredulous expression. By no means they were like ignorant morons or some young master of clans who thought the world owed them something. But recently, they were so focused on becoming his official disciple due to the pressure from their respective clans and families. And in a way, they were striving away from the path he needed them to walk to succeed him and benefit the tribe in the future. Finally, a blue barrier encapsulated their platform, and red pentagram-shaped runes on the floor glowed brightly. "Aren't you coming?" asked Atrus as his gaze swept through all of them. "Which one of us do you want to fight?" asked the female wolfkin disciple. "Isn't that obvious?" asked Atrus with a confident and ominous grin. "All of you at once." Out of nowhere, Khan suddenly challenged all of the disciples of Romulus who wanted to test him instead of fighting with them one at a time. This occurrence caught everyone off guard, including Romulus and his wife Priscilla. This sort of proclamation meant one thing for certain, that Atrus was looking down on all four of them. "Insolence! What an impetuous man!" spoke the tallest and strongest intermediate fourth stage Saint White Wolfkin among the group. The beginner rank fourth stage Saintess also had an incredibly ugly and hateful expression on her face as she glared at Atrus with killing intent. This sort of casual treatment signified that this shadow disciple who their master had been secretly training didn't even acknowledge their existence or saw them as his peers in terms of strength. It took them all more than 50 years to become what they are now after tirelessly training and absorbing resources. All of them were bound to play a vital part in the future of their tribe, which consisted of more than 300 million people and spread across thousands of kilometers. Each one of them was a prodigy and thus were recognized by the tribe leader to become his disciples. Yet this no-name wolfkin who never even showed up before them suddenly mocked their entire existence by challenging them all together. "What? Do you want me to lower my strength to half as well? Aren't I giving you guys too much of a handicap already?" The blue wolfkin spoke with a contorted expression. "Arsh! You guys are simply too shameless." He spoke and rolled his eyes in annoyance. "This bastard!" exclaimed the tall white wolfkin as he growled and bare his fangs at Atrus, Dorian, Juno, Ivar, and Mephisto. Suddenly a loud voice resounded in the hall as Romulus aka their master called out their names with respect to their rank and strength levels in descending order. "What did I teach you before? There is no such thing as honor or fairness on the battlefield. If Atrus wants to challenge you all to battle at once without the strength to back it, then it's his ignorance. If someone looks down on you, do not be ashamed of using that as an opportunity. Not every battle is a knight's duel," spoke Romulus with a terrifying and overbearing tone. The wolfkin knew his disciples very well. Although they were once in 100 years geniuses, everyone had flaws in their nature. Dorian, a halberd user, was simply too chivalrous and valued honor as a warrior. Juno, who had a unique class called Spirit Enchantress, was simply too stuck-up as someone with great strength. She looked down on her opponents by default if they were even slightly weaker than her. Ivar, an assassin, was simply a psychopath despite his frail-looking body. He liked to toy and torture his opponents before killing them, like a predator playing with its food. This made him an unreliable ally during the war because he'd rather play his little games than cooperate. Mephisto, a magician who was the weakest among them, was simply too hesitant and could be called the master of overthinking. He lost many opportunities during battle because of his unnecessarily cautious behavior. Thus, instead of using this as a learning experience, they got offended by simple words. A warrior who acts on impulses and could be hook-winded with simple provocations would never be a good leader. Romulus was also impressed by Atrus aka Khan on the other hand, because he was already playing mind games before the battle even began. After the wolfkin's scolding, all of the disciples simply gritted their teeth and entered the formation. Khan had learned a peculiar thing about the Beast Empire. Here, battles were mostly simulated using some sort of ancient techniques, formations and mechanics that were unique to the Nader Empire. And finally, a mountainous region appeared around Khan. This was neither an artificial battlefield nor it was an illusion. Rather, it was more like a pocket dimension created solely for the sake of battle training and fights to settle grudges between people. The trial by combat tradition being the origin behind such an approach. As for why was Khan doing this? He had no time to waste on the infighting, secret ploys and entertain these people like some cliché plot of a novel where he would fight them one by one or try to win their hearts. Khan had learned already that trying to please others to like him and mix with the crowd was nothing but a waste of time. If someone had malicious intent towards you or planned to backstab you, they would do so no matter how kind and generous you were towards them. The sooner he put them in their place, the more time he'd save which could be used to focus on his training. He wasn't here to make friends or play happy family with any of these people since he'd leave this place one day anyway. To him, the Beast Empire was simply a temporary asylum. But it didn't mean he'd repeat the same cycle of being looked down on or suppressed by others as he was in the past. Like people often said, first impression is last impression. As for fighting with the brawler class, Khan only knew the basics as one of his doppelgangers trained with the class skills for a while, and currently, he was already a beginner grandmaster rank in using gauntlets as a weapon. And him fighting with the water element? This was going to be the first time for both of these cases. Hence, to avoid unnecessary and repeated plot lines he already had been through, Khan openly challenged all of them at once. Tall mountain peaks, lush greenery, well-developed trees, and a wide water stream appeared in this arena while Atrus was surrounded by the group in all four directions. Dorian, Juno, Ivar, and Mephisto already took their well-practiced battle formation that they often used to take down stronger opponents. To them, Atrus was just way over his head to challenge them all at once. But in the mind of the blue wolfkin brawler saint, they were just practice dummies. Atrus was surrounded by all of the 4 disciples of Romulus that have been training under him for decades at this point. The purpose of this bout was very simple but significant: to set the hierarchy. Khan had his survival instinct blessing on high alert as well as Hunter's domain activated from the get-go. Now, 40 kilometers of this pocket dimension was no different than a hand-drawn map for him where he could detect, feel, and predict even the most minute details. Boom! This time, a dreary and terrifying dark blue aura erupted from his body as he activated Ward Dominance aura infused with his water and ice element, sending shivers in the bodies of his opponents. With this blessing raising the quality of his oppressive aura by 5 times, everyone else was instantly on alert mode because now, Atrus' aura resembled that of a peak 4th stage saint who was about to break through to 5th stage saint rank very soon. But what terrified them more was somehow, they felt that the blue wolfkin's bloodline was suppressing their bodies to a great extent, as if their own bloodline was bowing in front of the majesty of the one displayed by Atrus. What they didn't know was that Atrus aka Khan had 70% of the godbeast Fenrir bloodline, 3 times purer and denser than their own. In a way, they were akin to commoners in the presence of royalty. This made Atrus look like a terrifying monster and broke their confidence to fight him head-on from the get-go. We have to be cautious. This guy is definitely very strong despite his rank. Even my body is shivering and my mind feels reluctant to attack him, said Dorian to the other disciples through a telepathic communication artifact in the form of an earpiece. What is this freak? How can his bloodline suppress all of us at once? Where did the master even find him? He's definitely not some commoner or even from the clans under our tribe. If I'm not wrong, he must be from one of the true descendants' families like our master, replied Juno as 2 glowing blue orbs appeared in her hands. The way his body is built and those runes over his chest and arms, they're definitely related by blood. Is he Master's hidden son or something? Said Mephisto, the mage. Who cares? We just have to beat him to death since he was so arrogant to challenge all of us at once. Boy, am I going to take my sweet time torturing him. He, responded Ivar, the assassin with a psychotic expression. All right, since he isn't any weaker, let's fight him seriously from the start. He isn't going to be fazed by our basic skills. Is everyone on the same page? He questioned his fellow disciples. This entire conversation took only 3 seconds in real time and all the disciples nodded. Boom! For different auras suddenly erupted from all 4 directions as the white wolfkins also released their saint pressures. Dorian released a blinding white aura infused with light element. Juno released a flickering and erratic light blue aura with lightning element. Ivar revealed a green wood elemental aura as if he was one with nature itself. And finally, Mephisto revealed 5 different auras, displaying his mastery and control over 5 different elements as an elemental magician. A light swordsman, lightning enchantress, wood elemental assassin, and an elemental mage. All of them surrounded a water ice elemental brawler warrior. Inside the underground facility, Romulus and Priscilla watched this scene on a holographic screen displayed by an artifact placed on the platform from where the disciples entered the pocket dimension. Isn't he too arrogant? Not only he challenged them all at once, but he also revealed his full strength from the start, said the White Wolfkin 5th Stage Saintess. Besides, why does his bloodline feel purer and denser than all of us? I thought he was somehow related to you, but his bloodline is even purer than yours, who has the highest purity among all of us. He queried with a confused countenance. Romulus, on the other end, shook his head after hearing his wife's words. That's not the case. We aren't related in the slightest. All I can tell you is that I took him in for reasons I can't explain to you, not now and not ever. As for this battle, the Red Wolfkin with a massive and ripped body gazed at the screen with an incredulous expression. Inside the battle arena, begin the hybrid formation, commanded Dorian. Crackle. Thousands of vines suddenly arose from the ground below and quickly surrounded Atrus in a square-shaped 2 kilometers wide region, as if forming a cage as Ivar used his skills. Rumble. The sky rumbled as dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky and lightning ran amok the clouds as Juno started harnessing them to create her attack skills. Shing. Dozens of multicolored runes carrying different elements appeared in all 4 directions and soon formed a net of magic formations, the caster being none other than Mephisto. Clink. And finally, for ginormous stark white swords, emanating a holy aura suddenly appeared in the sky as Dorian activated one of his killer moves. Just from this battle formation alone, one could tell that they were treating this battle seriously and didn't plan to give Atrus any chance to resist or escape from their attacks at all. Atrus, on the other end, took notice of the swordsman and the enchantress first. Although he was greatly resistant to most of the elements, the only 2 weaknesses he had were the light and lightning elements. Thus, Dorian and Juno were the biggest threats in this battle. Bang! Massive beams of elemental attacks shot towards the blue wolfkin from all directions. Atrus used Quicksilver and appeared 500 meters away within half a second. But suddenly, clang! He turned and used Beowulf gauntlets to block an attack from behind as Ivar suddenly appeared out of thin air, trying to aim at his neck. But the latter suddenly disappeared again. Crackle! Boom! A massive lightning strike from the sky suddenly shot at Atrus as Juno was surrounded by lightning bolts as if a deity descending from the sky. Atrus quickly appeared 1 kilometer on left, but before he could react, the light elemental sword slashed at his position. Bang! A massive explosion shook the surroundings as Atrus was hit by the 500-meter-long sword, his fate unknown to everyone. Amidst the loud white cloud-like mushroom-shaped explosion, Atrus completely disappeared from everyone's sight under the unified onslaught of the White Wolfkins. It's just the beginning, but they all fell for it, said Romulus in an exasperated voice. Priscilla, on the other side, was taken aback by her husband's words. What do you mean? He couldn't even dodge in time against their perfectly coordinated attack, spoke the Saintess. In response, the peak 7th stage Saint only shook his head in denial. Bang! On the battlefield, as soon as Atrus appeared again, he was again slashed by the light elemental sword skills and almost got cut in half. The blue wolfkin took deep breaths as he dodged the massive sword's blade at the last moment, which was enough to kill him. His figure appeared as if he was barely managing to escape from the onslaught. And just like before, Ivar made another attempt at the Atrus life without giving him a chance to react. Boom! Right then, Mephisto also shot dozens of elemental beams from his summoned formations, but this time, they actually hit the target. Atrus was catapulted and crashed against the wooden wall created by the assassin werewolf, his figure appearing as if he took great damage. Crackle! Thunderclap! But before he could even recover from the impact, a massive 10-meter-wide lightning bolt struck from the dark sky as Juno, the lightning enchantress, was waiting for the very opportunity. Sizzle! Atrus was roasted and his fur was almost charred after getting struck by this attack, which was enough to destroy an entire building in a single strike. Arg! His countenance now appeared extremely haggard while he groaned in pain. Slash! Boom! The third sword from Dorian struck again as part of their premeditated team combo, and Atrus was swatted down like a fly, thrown into one of the water currents flowing in this battlefield. This time he barely looked like he was alive. Ha! That should teach you how to be humble, spoke Juno. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Suddenly, Atrus emerged out of the stream and started laughing. Is that the best all of you can do? Sheesh, what a letdown. Spoke the wolfkin with glowing blue eyes as he openly declared his grievance. This bastard! Exclaimed Dorian in rage. The other three were also riled up after this provocation and revealed a hateful countenance. 5 hours later. Again, you weak ants! Shouted Atrus as his figure was burnt and bleeding under the constant onslaught of the 4 wolfkins. So far, all he did was get beaten up and dodge in nick of time. In the meantime, he would keep taunting and berating these opponents of his, calling them children, weak and pathetic losers, cursing their clans and even going as far as calling them a waste of time. By now, he had successfully pissed off all the 4 disciples, but no matter how well-coordinated attacks they made or how badly Atrus was injured, he just wouldn't give up and kept mocking them again and again. Their bodies were now drenched in sweat, and all of them barely had any world energy reserves to keep fighting despite pushing their limits by activating their bloodlines and attacking Atrus. Many of their combined attacks were enough to kill a 4th stage saint easily, but for some reason, this shadow disciple would just get back up as if nothing happened. Are we done playing? Asked Atrus in a mischievous tone. The group of wolfkins who were panting heavily had an ugly and gloomy expression. All right then, my turn. One after another, the surroundings suddenly changed as storms and hurricanes formed and strong gusts of winds filled the surrounding 15 kilometers radius. This span encompassed the entire battlefield, and the range was 7 times wider than their team battle formation. Out of nowhere, the entire surroundings were filled with highly condensed water blades as Khan aka Atrus activated Waterblade Hurricane, a legendary rank ability he acquired from Cthulhu. Violent surging tides of water erupted from the ground and he used ocean eddies, another legendary rank skill that allowed him to create massive reserves of water using world energy. Now, all of them had a mortified countenance because unlike how people wouldn't even be able to lift their fingers after getting beaten to a pulp, Atrus was full of vigor and revealed an elated expression as if everything went according to plan. Unlike the wolfkins, Khan wasn't using his own reserves but Rathnar's core as the source for these skills, so in a way, there was no restriction on him in any way. These fools haven't even realized what he was doing while getting beaten up, said Romulus, greatly disappointed in his own disciples. What exactly is happening here? Asked Priscilla, as she also didn't understand how things transpired the way they were now. Logically, Atrus should be half dead or out of breath to even continue fighting. But instead, he was as energetic as before and was full of energy. It's not him who lost the initiative, it's them. He responded to his wife. When they were beating him with their combat techniques and unique abilities again and again, he saw most of their skills, speed, reaction time, and team battle synergy. Atrus actually lost the first exchange on a purpose. His real goal was to make his opponents reveal their hand and all the tricks. In the end, all of them were forced to use their bloodlines and raise strength by at least half a realm. But now, they are all weakened to the point that none of them can fight for long. He iterated, almost praising his new disciple in a way. He strategically drained them down both mentally and physically. And Atrus doesn't just plan to beat them in a simple exchange of fists anymore. His expression turned somber as he predicted what was about to happen next. Given the centuries of experience, he had seen through Khan's devious and ruthless plan. He intends to break their will to fight. As soon as Romulus declared his well-thought assumptions, a sudden change occurred inside the pocket dimension, acting as a battle arena. One after another, hundreds of massive pillars of water arose from the ground while the surging tides submerged the entire surroundings up to 50 meters high as if a new sea was formed. Even the dark clouds summoned by Juno suddenly started acting under the influence of this new battlefield as the blue wolfkin hijacked the control from the enchantress. Drip! In just a few moments, the sky started pouring down as loud and thunderous noises resounded. Hurricanes, thunderstorms, typhoons, all of them were summoned at once and rampantly charged from all directions while rising up to 4 kilometers in height alone. targeting the white wolfkins as a barrage of millions of high-pressured water blades that could cut down a boulder in a single slash attacked all four of them at once. Previously, the disciples of the peak 7th stage saint had surrounded him inside a 2 kilometers wide battle formation that acted like a cage. But now, it was Atrus who trapped them inside a 15 kilometers radius battlefield that swirled like a whirlpool, enclosing all the escape routes whether it was ground or the sky. They were no longer surrounding Atrus. Rather, he was surrounding them. Swoosh! Right exactly, the group was stifled because of this sudden turn of events that caught them off guard. Atrus quickly appeared a few meters behind Mephisto, who was protecting himself under a protection barrier while getting hit by hundreds of water blades. If he wasn't a 2nd stage saint, he'd be cut into thousands of small slices already. Yet, the onslaught was still too much for him, and this attack purposely charged at him from the front. He didn't even sense Atrus suddenly appearing behind him. The blue wolfkin on the other end amassed his full strength inside a punch. Boom! A shockwave resonated in the battlefield as Beowulf struck the barrier and broke past all of its defenses, shattering it instantly. Mephisto quickly turned his head around with a terrified expression. He hadn't even sensed the brawler wolfkin, and before he could react, bang! His chest caved in as a solid punch delivered by Atrus quickly broke his ribcage and sternum. Mephisto threw up a mouthful of blood as his entire body shook and his lungs and liver were damaged. Before the other 3 disciples evading and fighting on different fronts could even react, Atrus one-shot Mephisto. The elemental mage's body dropped to the surface of the erratic sea below as he fainted due to intense pain. Whoosh! You bastard! A figure appeared behind Atrus and aimed his 2 daggers at his neck. Grab! However, Atrus didn't give Ivar any chance to even activate his assassination skills or prepare for some killer move. Bang! He pulled the 3rd stage saint and headbutt him on the spot. Without wasting another moment, the blue wolfkin quickly used Executioner's Gaze, paralyzing the assassin and rendering his body from moving. Punch! Atrus' left hand punched in succession and broke the assassin's jaw and his right shoulder. His speed was so fast that only the powerful spectators aka Romulus and Priscilla saw through this attack. This skill was a SS rank skill named Precision Hit. It worked only at close range and the opponent needed to be slow to react to this attack. Thus, Khan used this to knock out Ivar. Plop! Just like before, he threw the opponent into the sea and moved to the next target. Whoosh! On the right side, amidst the storm of water blades, Juno was using her lightning elemental formations and destroying the blades as hundreds of lightning bolts easily broke through them. But the problem here was the unceasing quantity of the blades which were taking a toll on her already low world energy reserves. And since the Enchanter class couldn't use an external source or an artifact like a summoner to make their attacks, she was greatly struggling. Punch! Her protective measures shattered from a random-looking punch from Atrus, and Juno received an immense backlash. This time, too, Atrus grabbed and choked the opponent's neck with an evil grin. "You like to use those lightning bolts a lot, don't you?" asked the wolfkin with a devilish smirk. Rumble! The dark sky rumbled as hundreds of lightning bolts amassed together. "Impossible!" spoke Juno while struggling to breathe. Flicker! The blue wolfkin's image flickered, but before Juno could even react, thunderclap! The thunderous lightning bolt shot from the sky and hit the enchantress. Bang! A fainted female wolfkin whose entire figure was now charred black dropped into the sea below as Atrus ironically used a lightning bolt by controlling the clouds in the sky to take down this lightning enchantress. Slash! Right then, Dorian slashed one of his 500-meter-long light elemental swords, and hundreds of swords, each sizing 5 meters in length, swarmed around him. Atrus was so fast in taking down his allies that he didn't even get a chance to help them. "I see. Those 4 massive swords are part of his saint rank skill. He doesn't have too many killer moves as I thought Atrus. You shouldn't be able to even stand straight after getting directly hit by mine and Juno's attacks. You're just cheating, aren't you?" asked the 4th stage saint while panting heavily. By logic, the light and lightning elements were currently the strongest elements if one took the darkness element out of the equation. Yet, Atrus was completely unaffected even after getting hit by more than a dozen times in the past 4 hours. So Dorian was both befuddled and skeptical. Is it cheating if I'm using my own skills to protect myself? Who says any of you guys were strong enough to take me down with those trash skills in the first place? Asked Atrus in an indifferent tone. What he didn't know that every time Khan was hit by Dorian and Juno's attacks, at the last moment, he used the phase shift skill to pass through the attacks, receiving 0 damage. And after the explosions from those attacks subsided, he purposely appeared as if he was greatly hurt and wailed in pain. Atrus was using both his fighting and acting skills in this battle. All right then, spoke Atrus and made a challenging gesture to the last standing disciple as his overbearing voice reverberated in this battlefield. Show me what you got. 10 minutes later. Is that all? I thought you were supposed to be the strongest among them. Spoke the blue wolfkin with a disappointed gaze. Unlike what he thought, the battle with Dorian was simply too anticlimactic. After figuring out all of the white wolfkin skills, attack patterns, and combat techniques, there was nothing new that the disciple used against Atrus. Dorian only had 2 saint rank skills. One being the 4 massive and 500-meter-long light elemental swords, and second being the hundreds of swords that hovered like a swarm of bees around the user, which were good for offense and defense. But for someone like him who had more than 30 saint rank skills and close to 16 legendary rank skills, 6 of which were usable in actual combat in his present scenario and elemental affinity without revealing his identity as a chosen hero, the end result was simply underwhelming. All he had to do was close off their distance and make some critical strikes using Wrath of Vajra skill till Dorian was heavily injured and expended all of his world energy. Khan now understood that although he wasn't as strong or skillful as Romulus, Vildred, or Rathnar, he was many times stronger than others of the same rank. It's not that the 4 disciples were weaker. They had impeccable teamwork and strategies for open war and also taking down a beginner 5th stage saint if they worked together. But their luck was just too bad because they faced him of all people they shouldn't have. Now shut up and wait till I think of something to finish you all off, spoke Khan as he stepped on Dorian's chest, further humiliating the strongest disciple among the group. This terrifying victory by Atrus wasn't achieved through some Deus Ex Machina-style combat. Although Khan was supposed to be weaker, he was already comparable to a beginner 5th stage saint and all of his physical stats already exceeded Dorian by a huge margin. Hence his attack power and speed were multiple times faster than the latter. And the others were already many times weaker than him because of their ranks and classes which didn't have much defense to begin with. Like Romulus said, none of them realized what he was doing while getting beaten up by the 4. And finally, he used the psychokinesis skill associated with water from the sea below, making it look like the water itself was moving at his will as the entire water body moved away, revealing the destroyed open ground below. He then brought the other 3 disciples and used lucid reality on them. And lastly, swoom. Atrus disappeared, and the next time he appeared in the sky, the rising water started coalescing and formed an enormous 300-meter wide and 150-meter tall claw that was further reinforced by hundreds of icicles from the nearby terrain. A terrifying and malicious aura erupted from the fist, and the 4 disciples felt a chill in their bodies. Azure Dragon Fist! Shouted Atrus and made a punching gesture towards the Wolfkins. Such a Chinibu name. Well, not like I have named many skills any better. Thought Khan. Shoot! Like an arrow released from a bow, this massive fist made of moving ice descended from the sky. Bang! The nearby space ruptured and the shockwaves from this attack froze the nearby terrain. And when everything became clear to them, all that was left was a massive fortress-like iceberg. Inside of it were the 4 disciples who were now turned into ice sculptures. The density of this ice was hard and strong that no matter how much saint pressure they used, none could escape. For a saint, the only 2 things that made them look like a god in the eyes of mortals were their uncontrollably strong bodies that were enough to destroy a mountain due to their rank and their world energy reserves. Without both, they were as weak as a normal person, and Atrus exhausted them all while fighting on all fronts in the past 4 hours. Outside the arena, even Priscilla was taken aback. It wasn't that Romulus trained them for nothing. It was just that Atrus was in control of this battle from beginning to end. And without even realizing, they overestimated themselves as he appeared weaker. And right when they thought they had proven themselves superior, he turned the tables on them. "Let's see what you all do with the second one," mocked Atrus like a supreme god looking down on ants. Finally, Atrus summoned another azure dragon fist. "What the hell? He can attack with more of those?" thought Juno with a terrified mind as she struggled to move inside her ice prison. "No, this one is different. Stronger than the first one. If we're hit in our current condition, I don't think any of us will survive," relayed Dorian to his fellow disciples. But this time, Khan used the Dragon Bloodlines effect. Beowulf was originally a legendary rank brawler warrior set made from the Guardian Dragon's Horn, and now with the Khan utilizing the Bloodline effect, it increased the overall attack power of the fist by 350%, and the aura also became terrifyingly strong. This was extremely alarming to his opponents, and all they could feel like a certain death was glaring at them. But right then, the arena suddenly deactivated and all of them were summoned back to the training facility. Romulus looked at his disciples with a gaze filled with disappointment. "Do you see the reason why I made him my shadow disciple?" he asked in a tyrannical voice. One after another, Romulus told them about their mistakes during the battle. And as soon as he finished, all of them had sullen expressions. "Tell me why you chose this type of strategy," he ordered Atrus. "I simply used a battle strategy one read about a long time ago," replied the blue wolfkin brawler. "Tell us what it is," commended the red wolfkin. "Engage people with what they expect. It is what they are able to discern and confirm their projections. It settles them into predictable patterns of response, occupying their minds while you wait for the extraordinary moment, that which they cannot anticipate," he said while looking down on all four of the disciples. All four of the white wolfkins had an almost ashamed expression after hearing these words. Whether it was strength, battle tactics, versatility, Atrus was superior in terms of everything. Against such a powerhouse, they no longer had the will to fight. Any hopes of excelling against this new shadow disciple faded into nothingness as Dorian, Juno, Ivar and Mephisto realized that their efforts to make Atrus submit to themselves had gone in vain, as the latter not only beat all of them together as one but also trumped them in regards of battle strategy. Khan, on the other end, decided to use this approach of bullying them using his superior cheat skills because he wanted to break their will to fight and any ideas to cross him in the future, so they don't stand in his way now or ever. He used the exact strategy he just cited. First, he intentionally provoked them and goaded them into fighting all at once, making them reveal their hand while they were under the impression that Atrus was at their mercy during the battle. Then he made them expend all of their world energy through attacks and skills while constantly evading and sometimes getting hit by their attacks. Meanwhile, he also toyed with their minds, irritated them, saw through all of their abilities, skills and weaknesses, and finally used the flaws in their team fighting strategy to easily take them down at once. Now, he knew about everything there was to know about them, including their aces under the sleeve and most powerful skills as saints. Not only did Atrus have overbearing strength despite being the same rank as them, but he also was a better strategist, allowing him to face 4 enemies by himself. This made them all feel ashamed and indignant as their halo of being the best of their generation in the entire Fenrirborn tribe was shattered to bits. A visible expression of distraught was revealed on all of their expressions as their master, his wife, and the new shadow disciple left the training grounds. "Did I overdo it?" asked Atrus after they reached a new place, which was Romulus' personal training facility. "What are you talking about?" said the red wolfkin with an elated countenance. "That was exactly what I wanted," he iterated with a content smile. "Why?" questioned Atrus with a puzzled face. "Because they all have grown conceited in the past few years and think they're the best because they stand at the pinnacle among their peers. No matter how much I tried to get this fact in their head, they would always return to the same mindset as spearheads of the young generation who are supposed to become great leaders of the tribe." He explained the inside matter. "And that's why I needed someone of the same generation to break their delusions and presumptuous notions. Now, They will never think too highly of themselves and will remember that there's always someone stronger than them regardless of how talented or genius they are. He said openly. In the Nader Empire, we only respect the strong. No devious planning or plotting which helps you win will ever be accepted. You must settle with your own 2 fists. Now, you have also earned their respect. He spoke secretly to Atrus. But isn't that like putting an infant against a full-grown adult? I'm after all a chosen hero of a god. Responded Khan. But they don't need to know that, do they? Asked Romulus with a devilish smirk. Priscilla understood what was about to happen now that they were in this private training facility filled with dozens of magic formations, each having a different purpose. She glanced at Atrus and gave a nod of approval, thinking that this shadow discipline indeed had what it took to be worth training and investing in for the sake of their tribe. Romulus took a deep breath and spoke in a somber tone. All right then, let's start your real training. Inside the private training facility, 2 wolfkins stood tall as the important lesson finally started. Khan, you're officially the apostle of war deity and apostle of blacksmithing at this point. So never undermine them any longer and utilize them in order to become overwhelmingly strong. I know that you never had a proper teacher so far, and you are still many times stronger than your peers. Maybe even stronger than many of the other summoned heroes. However, he said in a serious tone, it does not mean you're any special or the first to do it. His voice reverberated in this massive hall. There were many natives and heroes who have done it before, but not all of them even became 7th stage saints. This is why you need to restructure your entire foundation again and discard what you knew before. Spoke the Heavenly King with a stern gaze. Khan nodded in response. He'd let the expert do the talking and follow his instructions, because whatever Romulus knew wouldn't be available inside many books he read till now. The truly powerful always held outstanding methods and techniques for themselves, while the oblivious masses cherished the average ones as if they were unrivaled. Tell me, what do you know about world energy? He questioned. A higher form of mana which lets one become a saint and achieve godly strength, and expands the range and power of one's skills and abilities. Stated Khan. That's just general knowledge. But know this one fact. Although absorbing the world energy to break through to ranks is a common factor, different species have different speeds, affinity, and ways to utilize it. Some use their environment. Some people like saints use their physique, while few use their bloodlines to harness it to consume and turn it into their own strength. He stated in an intelligible tone. Monster species imbued world energy in their bodies and skills like legendary rank ones. That's solely circumstantial because their elemental affinity, species, and age are deciding factors. While the fighter classes from different species consciously use them in the desired forms which they train their bodies for. But many don't pay attention to world energy itself. I will let that dragon teach you about it. For now, I'm going to teach you how to incorporate the basics as well as the best way given how we're going to lay a new foundation for you. He stated, and soon they entered inside a formation, reappearing in a different pocket dimension. This technique is what you must master to perfection if you want to face others without fear. It's called, said the Wolfkin and showed Khan a demonstration as he revealed the name. The harnessing. Romulus suddenly gave Khan a hint of something he was about to teach Khan as the first step of their training. But the latter couldn't make any sense of it since it was a very often used term in the world of Vantria. The red wolfkin with a torso full of glowing scarlet runes spoke solemnly. We store the world energy in our body to increase our strength. The more reserves stored, the higher rank you will attain over the years as your body becomes strong enough to reach a new rank. But this is where majority of the people, including many powerful saints in the world, make a mistake. He iterated. What they don't realize is that although our body is a vessel, it's also a medium to convert the world energy. Converting it willingly to use as an attack spell or skill consciously is just providing an outlet to the energy that's already stored in our bodies. The stronger skill or attack is, the more world energy is consumed. This is also why many powerful saints above 6th stage saints don't usually fight others of the same rank. The peak 7th stage saint revealed. Because when they release their full strength, the world energy in that surrounding 100 kilometers is also being controlled without their will. That's why even a simple attack can obliterate everything in dozens of kilometers. He explained why the damage range was always so vast when saints fought. But like I said, it will also depend on your own world energy reserves because you're the one making that attack in the end. The natural world energy that is outside of your body is only responding to the one stored inside you whether you want to or not, said the Heavenly King in a stern voice. Wait a minute. Doesn't that mean world energy itself is a double-edged sword for saints? He asked with a wide-open gaze in surprise. Correct. The stronger you are, the harder it becomes to control the world energy present in the world. But you can't notice it until you become at least a 5th stage saint first by creating your own domain. He revealed another vital information. You can't hope to command the world energy in nature at will without it hijacking your own control. That's why many saints use their reserves to make small attacks and only go all out when they're far away from normal people who could die because of their battle or come in their way. Because it's extremely hard to control it while exuding your peak strength when you're a 7th stage saint or above. Not only our strength is enough to destroy dozens of cities and sometimes even 8th stage saints and above can destroy over 100 kilometers at their peak. His loud voice filled the hall as Khan was taken aback again. Although he knew that range always rose with ranks, but to hear that it was not only because of your strength but also because of the interference from the world itself. Romulus spoke again solemnly. When I fought you, I used that artifact to not only trap you but also cut the flow of world energy beyond 50 kilometers. And only inside my domain was I able to use just 10% of my strength. Had I not done it, I would have ended up forcefully using at least 50% of my strength even with great control and you would have died before you could even think. He revealed a fact about their first meeting. That terrifying might displayed by Romulus a few days ago was actually him trying his best not to kill Khan while also hammering down the true difference between the strength of the powerhouses of the world and him. You can ask Rathnar Whitlock if I'm right or not, he said nonchalantly. Inside Khan's mind, the peak saint also spoke in a carefree tone. And when were you going to tell me about these things, you old bastard? Asked Khan with an indignant countenance. Are you a 7th stage saint yet? No, right? Then what's the point in telling or teaching you anyway? It's not like our soul pact mentioned me imparting my knowledge and techniques to you as if you were my successor or something. I'm merely enjoying a free ride, said Rathnar shamelessly. Unlike Romulus, Rathnar never had any obligation to teach Khan as some sort of mentor about anything other than how to use the Table of Arcana and Chamber of Exaltation. So all this information was indeed new to Khan. Oh, if I'm not wrong and based on how he mentioned harnessing, he is planning to teach you that dangerous technique. But I think it's too early even for a chosen hero like you. This apostle of slaughter is even a bigger madman than the one I fought. He spoke with a grim voice that gave even Khan goosebumps. Then what's this harnessing you're talking about? Asked Khan aka Atrus to the Wolfkin. To this query, Romulus responded somberly. The only way to escape the Matrix is to unlearn everything you've been taught and rebuild your entire belief system based on critical thought and analysis. Discovering your true self is a process of removal rather than addition. As if imparting some sort of wisdom of the world, the Fenrirborn tribe leader spoke with his arms folded. Next, he covered his right fist with a glowing red aura. What do you see? He asked the blue wolfkin in front of him. There's a layer of world energy. Good. Can you tell me how much world energy this layer has? Not much, replied Khan without a second thought. But instead of agreeing, Romulus shook his head. That's just natural world energy. If I harness it and simply attack with a skill using the standard method, I will cause great damage. Now look carefully, said the mentor. Bang! The entire hall was suddenly filled with bursts and tides of visible green world energy. Suddenly this permeating and visible world energy turned red and fire appeared in the entire hall like flowing red water tides. Although I'm not a mage, my control is so much that I changed it into the fire element because of my personal affinity. He stated in a smug tone. What's the difference between this and the spells used by a mage? Because it shouldn't be possible because you're not a legit mage at all. In the end, This is just an external source and not your own reserves. Wondered Khan. That's where people get it wrong. How does one become a saint? By accessing, storing, and then using the world energy to make a breakthrough, right? He asked with a curious gaze at Khan. Khan nodded in response. They treat their bodies as a container, but my methods will teach you how to use world energy in many different ways. The first lesson is that not only your body is a container, but also the refiner. He declared with a smile. What I'm going to teach you, said Romulus with an ominous tone as a chill ran down Khan's spine, will make you want to kill yourself. The Red Wolfkin gave Khan a forewarning about the dangers of the harnessing technique to raise his strength. Summon some world energy around you like I did, spoke Romulus. Khan followed the instructions and stood. A green smoke-like world energy was gathered over his palm. Now try to move it like it's trapped inside a rectangular box. It shouldn't cross that imaginary boundary while increasing the speed of the flow. He instructed again. Under his command, Khan tried to move this amount of world energy as he tried to condense this rampantly running smoke. And after a great effort, it sped up so fast that it resembled photon particles revolving at light speed inside a reactor. Now flatten and condense it just like this, said the peak 7th stage saint and gave a demo. However, this time, Khan could barely move them at will despite being an intermediate magician himself. After 10 minutes of consistent effort, he finally managed to form a thin film like a white sheet of paper. Now form a layer of it on your fist, said Romulus. This is just 0.5% of this technique's full potential. But if you hit an enemy with it, bang! Suddenly, the thin film of world energy touched Khan's skin, and his entire forearms exploded. Groaned Khan aka Truce in great pain as his flesh and shattered bones spread on the floor. He patiently waited for the intense pain to subside while his instant regeneration skill healed him fully. Even after recovering, he had an ugly expression. You could barely move them slowly, and yet the result was your forearm getting exploded to bits with this just thin layer of world energy. Imagine what would happen if you were touched by my fist, spoke Romulus. Khan was stupefied and rooted on the spot. Because Khan's demo was like him wearing surgical gloves, while Romulus' condensed world energy was like him wearing a boxing glove. As he watched and tried to fathom the aftermath, Rathnar spoke in Khan's mind. Not even ashes of your body will be left. Also, the nearby 5 kilometers of space would be destroyed just from the explosion alone. Explained the Peak Saint how powerful the skill was. He then requested to switch bodies with him. As Rathnar took control, his majestic aura changed. Aren't you going overboard? The kid isn't even a 6th stage saint yet. His body can't withstand it. The more layer he forms and harnesses world energy, the more volatile it will be. He could even die if he is neglectful even for a second. He spoke with Romulus. The latter quickly recognized the presence of this aura and understood it was the Peak Saint speaking. Well, if he doesn't do this, will his chances of becoming strong rise just because he is a chosen hero with divine abilities? You've killed 9 heroes back in your time. You know that even divine abilities can't always guarantee your safety. Spoke the Wolfkin somberly. If someone seals the space, this kid can't even escape to save his life. With this, he will be able to at least fight someone 3 ranks above him or stall for time once he masters it. He iterated in an affirming tone. We're basically changing his entire foundation as a warrior and as a saint itself. Without it, he won't be different than all the other heroes of this generation. And let me tell you something, the current hero of nature is already a 5th stage saint. If Khan was to fight someone like him one day, there's no way he'd win, declared the Heavenly King. Why do you say that? Asked Rathnar in a curious tone. Although I can't reveal what his divine abilities are because of the pact we have. He once killed a mythical rank monster that was comparable to a 3rd stage saint while he was only a 1st stage saint, all by himself. He had no help, there was no suppression formation on the monster, and all his party members did was watch. As things stand, he too can fight 3 ranks above him because of his domain. Revealed the Peak 7th stage saint. He isn't the type to admit defeat even in the face of the impossible. If we want Khan to stand against people like him or at least have the strength to protect himself, he has to learn it. Explained the Fenrirborn again. Damn it! Why aren't the empires working together? Should that demon god be the biggest threat to the entire world? Is there no peak saint in the current era? Asked Rathnar with a visibly incredulous expression. Romulus shook his head in response and spoke in a stern voice. The situation would be salvageable at some point, had Khan not killed the hero of fire. He explained with a helpless countenance. The precedent set by the 8th hero of darkness was already so impactful on all the empires. And now this Khan also followed his footsteps. He is already following the same path according to them. That is why I must teach him these extremely dangerous techniques. He gave his reasoning. He will keep making mistakes. Sometimes he might get severely injured and lose an arm or even his head if he doesn't practice it to perfection. But unless he learns the harnessing perfectly, I can't teach him the next techniques and combat skills. His foundation needs to be discarded and reconstructed from scratch. Because there is no other way left for him if he wishes to survive, said Romulus in a tone filled with both worry and resignation. Khan, who was in the back seat of his mind, also realized that he had no other choice. This extremely painful method where his entire body would explode, mutilated, sometimes resulting in him getting blown up to death, was by far the most dangerously horrifying method of training. And like Rathnar said, he was way too weak to even start practicing it now. But he also understood why Romulus wanted to teach him this technique. Because he simply had no other way to make Khan strong in a short time. However, no matter how one looked at it, this type of training was self-harming, would probably destroy his body every time he made the smallest mistake, and then there would always be a possibility of him dying. And the con was that he couldn't leave this to any of his doppelgangers either. It'd be his real body going through all that pain and suffering by himself. Now he also understood why Romulus said Khan would want to kill himself. This type of mental and physical torture. People would rather kill themselves than suffer from something so painful day and night. As the saying went, there are no free things in the world. One must follow the law of equivalent exchange. To attain great power, Khan had to sacrifice his own body and live through the dreadful and mortifying pain again and again, akin to killing himself knowingly. Khan then took back control and declared with a determined experience, "I'll do it, master." Khan officially acknowledged Romulus as his master after hearing his plans. There was no shame in accepting the truth about someone mentoring you becoming your master in all senses. Because the one who does not respect their teacher can never truly learn from them in the first place. Now, it was time for Khan to start his training for real. First, he tried to understand the basics of harnessing explained by the peak 7th stage saint. Like the word implies, one must harness the world energy. But it wasn't just as same as absorbing it. Rather, refining it using your own body as a medium and then elevating it to the next level. And then use it to incorporate into their attacks. What Khan got wrong the first time during his attempt was he only formed a layer and let it touch his body without having formed the ability to refine that world energy acquired from the outside source. Which resulted in two different and incompatible forces of nature, the world energy stored in his body and the one from the environment that he was forcefully controlling, colliding against each other and causing that explosion, resulting in his forearm exploding. His body needed to go through this procedure, and only then he'd be able to use the same amount of world energy like Romulus and stack over 100 layers of it as the Wolfkin did. First, we need to change how your body processes world energy, said the Heavenly King as he folded his arms with a somber expression. How? Asked Atrus aka Khan. By draining it down till there's nothing left. And then I will use a form of technique to restructure how your body circulates it and also make it flow more rapidly inside your body, such as through veins and the nervous system. But do know that it will be extremely painful. And you will feel like you're being pierced by millions of sharp needles in every inch of your body. He revealed the painful experience that was to come beforehand. The only thing that can become a hurdle is your inability to withstand both mental and physical pain. Well, you can withstand it given your regeneration abilities and bloodlines. The problem is your mind will give out soon. He spoke with a face full of concern. "So now, fight against me first and show me your strongest skills," ordered the new master. 5 hours later. Boom! Inside the pocket dimension they were training, Khan was going all out. He used the new Azura mode, which now contained Cthulhu's regeneration abilities and resilience against many elements. Then, he also simultaneously used the Shura mode, forming a half-a-kilometer tall phantom this time. This was his most world energy-consuming skill if Khan didn't use Rathnar's core to use as an auxiliary source of world energy. However, both Khan and Romulus didn't acknowledge it as his own because the system created both of these modes of battle forms and not Khan himself. And exactly when he was on the last straw, Khan used Berserk God mode after 2 years again. During those 20 minutes, he was comparable to an intermediate 5th stage saint. However, no matter which skill or attack he used, Romulus' defenses were unharmed. Even the dimensional cut skill couldn't cut through a red barrier he summoned, as the Wolfkin only received the attacks and did not fight back at all. Khan didn't know what kind of skill or techniques the peak 7th stage was using, but even his strongest and sure-shot killer move no longer worked. And if it didn't work against the Wolfkin, means many other powerful saints with unique abilities and skills could also remain unscathed against dimensional cut. In a way, Romulus was many times better and more powerful than any of the mythical rank monsters Khan had faced till this point in Vantria. But thanks to this experience, he became aware of how powerful this world was, filled with people that could even find ways to nullify the divine abilities of a chosen hero. No wonder Rathnar was able to kill so many heroes despite having no divine abilities. They can be countered if you have the correct methods and skills prepared, thought Khan as he finally expended all of the world energy in his body as the activation time ended. His body was now full of sweat and he dropped on the ground, panting heavily. "I can't move. Hell, I can't even breathe properly," he said with an exhausted countenance. "Good. Now let me open your world energy pathways and force out any remaining reserves," said Romulus. He put a palm over Khan's head and the very next moment, splat, thousands of small pores opened on his entire body and Khan's blood was expelled out. "You have too many bloodlines. Some of them even counter each other. You're lucky that you have a mythical rank metamorphosis bloodline as well. Otherwise, it wouldn't have balanced out the rest of the powerful bloodline at this stage. Your blood itself could have been turned into poison and deformed your body and mind, eating it from the inside." He warned Khan openly. "It's just like Argos says, his divine abilities will kill him soon. I can only cleanse some of the toxicity for now. I will have to leave the rest to him since my knowledge of bloodlines is just superficial and he's a true expert in them. This brat, his luck was too good to not have died till this point. The question is, why did the God of Darkness allow him to choose these divine abilities despite knowing the consequences? Well, that's not my problem. I can help him to live for a couple more years by doing this. Argos can take care of the rest," thought the Wolfkin. Khan's blood churned and, as Romulus said, he felt like being pricked by millions of needles in every inch of his body. Tears dropped from his eyes as Khan felt like his skull, skin, spine, bones, arteries, veins, and entire nervous system was getting demolished, ground, shattered, and torn from the inside. Every passing second felt like an eternity, and in those moments, he felt like dying dozens of times. This was a pain that would make someone faint on the spot, but Khan's quivering yet unwavering figure revealed his unyielding and indomitable will. Hours passed, and now the floor was covered in liters of black blood. Finally, all the smudge and blood turned into ash under the fire released by Romulus. This kid is good. That type of mental fortitude and perseverance. Even among saints, there are less than 15 people in the world who can withstand such pain without going mad. I can't say about strength, but as far as mental capacity is concerned, thought the Apostle of Slaughter and gave his verdict. Khan is definitely the strongest one among all the new heroes. The next day, inside the Heavenly King's personal training facility, surrounded by hundreds of archaic formations and runes that not only isolated and protected this vast hall, but also held dozens of small pocket dimensions where Romulus himself trained without destroying dozens of kilometers from the real world. Squirm. A set of veins, flesh and bones squirmed and regenerated like moving larvae at a rapid pace while flesh and blood were sprayed across the floor. A deformed jaw bone relocated itself. The teeth started growing again. A new left eye grew itself while an ear grew back. Finally, an entire left side of the skull was regenerated and a new layer of fair white skin formed. As an aftermath of a failed attempt at learning harnessing for the 73rd time, Atrus aka Khan's entire left side of the skull and face blew up, exposing his brain and everything inside. However, this time his mind and heart were inside the true dimension, averting his certain death again. Again! Exclaimed Romulus, Khan's new mentor. They have been training since early morning, and every time Khan lost control over the external world energy and failed to assimilate inside his body, he kept exploding from the inside, losing an arm, a leg, and even his eyes. Every single time. The pain was unimaginable and agonizing as Khan felt the feeling of death. If someone else was attempting this dangerous technique, they would have died 73 times already. Only an anomaly like Khan, who was a chosen hero, could stay alive after such self-harming and dreadful technique to gain strength in a short amount of time. "This isn't going how it was supposed to be," said the peak 7th stage saint with an indignant voice. However, it still didn't change the fact that even with combat technique blessings which allowed him to raise proficiency, Khan still didn't make too much progress despite getting blown up by just using 0.5% of world energy he controlled using the harnessing technique. Even Khan couldn't guess what was happening as he was doing his best, but no matter how careful he was, his control over the world energy kept loosening whenever he tried to refine it using his own body. Could it be that his body has already been tempered differently? Wondered Romulus. "Switch with him," he ordered. Soon, the peak saint took control and Romulus explained his worries, suspecting that Khan's different bloodlines were the cause of this problem. "Leave it to me. I can find a way to resolve this situation and he will be able to perform harnessing by tomorrow," spoke Rathnar and left the training facility. Soon, he returned to Atrus' current small villa that was given to him for staying. Inside the villa, Vildred was resting while being undetected by everyone in the 50 kilometers range. Set up an ancient rank shadow realm barrier around this villa. He commended the royal dragon who was in meditation pose. "Why? My current barrier is enough to hide everything from those below the 8th stage saint," said the lighting dragon emperor. "There's something you need to see, and its aura will be known once we take it out. But we can't tell Romulus about it," said Rathnar, trying to maintain complete secrecy. "Fine, but I'm not at my peak, so it will take some time," responded the Sage of Preservation as he sighed. For hours later, Vildred set up an ancient rank magic formation with over 3,000 archaic formations and runes spread in 200 meters radius. Khan was astonished after seeing the result because he felt like they were no longer in the same plane of existence like the outside world. This wasn't the true dimension, but it wasn't the real world either. "What kind of formation is this?" he asked from the back seat. "It's one of the most powerful formations in the world's history. All the other isolation barriers are derived from it. Not even an 8th stage saint can create it easily," replied Vildred in a calm tone. "It's exactly what I used to hide that thing from the world," said Rathnar, who was still controlling the blue wolfkin's body. "It's time to use it again." He spoke, and the very next moment, swoosh, bang. Finally, a massive 3-meter-tall golden slab covered with archaic runes of an unknown language appeared in the room. The Tablet of Arcana. As soon as Rathnar summoned the Tablet of Arcana, Vildred was flabbergasted and almost trembled in astonishment as he felt a sense of familiarity with it. "Is this one of the 6 rumored creations of demigods?" he questioned with eyes wide open. "Yes, this is what I used to become a peak saint when I was alive," spoke Rathnar in an indifferent voice while folding his arms behind his back. "I see, the rumors were indeed true then. Some of these runic engravings do resemble the mask of eternity we have. I guess both of them were created by the same demigod," revealed Vildred, breathing heavily. "Oh, so the Dragon Empire has one as well. Back in the day, I found that Lightbringers also had one of the 6 creations." He spoke in a stern voice. "You mean Empire of Light, asked Khan from the inside. Yes, if my guess is correct. All the heroes and heroines of light have been trained using whatever they have since the beginning of this whole thing started 3,000 years ago. Those guys have always been one of the first ones to become unnaturally strong even among the other heroes. He iterated, revealing something unknown to most of the empires of Vantria. That leaves the whereabouts of the remaining 3 creations. Never mind, that's something we should leave for the future, he said and moved to the topic at hand. Maybe our approach was correct, just the place was wrong. He spoke. Remember how the Chamber of Exaltation changes your body itself in order to make you twice stronger than other saints of the same rank? Maybe that's why you can't practice harnessing. He spoke with a worrisome countenance. Vildred says, "Wait, harnessing? Are you teaching him to control the outside world energy using his body as a medium to refine and restructure it?" queried the royal dragon with a surprised gaze. All Rathnar did was nod. Isn't that too dangerous for Khan? He could easily die if anything went wrong. He's not strong enough to keep practicing it for long, spoke Vildred, revealing his unhappiness. Khan then told the royal dragon about his regeneration and dimensional law abilities. This could work. But what if you run out of world energy to use as a source? You will definitely die. He spoke in a gloomy voice. We have this, spoke Rathnar again, and soon activated Khan's dimensional domain to reveal a particular blinding white spherical object that was 3 meters tall. This was the Peak Saint's core. So much world energy. This source. I have never seen something like this in my entire life. Even the remnant core of one of the ancient elder dragons didn't have so much world energy condensed inside, exclaimed Vildred in disbelief, losing his decorum as a dignified, strongest mage in the world. How strong is it exactly? Queried Khan again. Enough to obliterate everything in 800 kilometers normally. If you use some external formation to increase the range like a chain reaction, it will go as far as 1,200 kilometers. Revealed the Dragon Emperor. Holy Mother of Oppenheimer. So I have been sitting on an unstable nuclear bomb all these years, huh? Even Khan was perplexed after hearing these words from Vildred. Rathnar soon told Vildred about the function of the Chamber of Exaltation. This thing, it's like giving a superior dragon's body to Khan, iterated Vildred in a dumbfounded tone. One after another, he was receiving way too many mind-boggling revelations. Both Rathnar's core and Tablet of Arcana were probably the biggest treasures in the entire world of Vantria. If Khan ever becomes a peak saint, he will be able to fight a demigod on equal footing for at least 2 hours, hypothesized the royal dragon, who was the prime expert on world energy and magic among the 3. That powerful? Well, I didn't have a demigod to test out my full strength against. I only knew how powerful they were from the ancient records I acquired alongside the Table of Arcana, said Rathnar, almost shamelessly flexing. The other half of my soul must know something about it. That part also holds most of my powerful techniques and killer moves. He revealed. Only if you weren't so upstuck, you would have your entire soul, said Khan. Boy, like I told you when we made the pact, you're too weak to even enter the place I arranged. At least become an 8th stage saint first, and then we can think about it. He berated the oblivious fool. All right, let me test my theory, spoke Rathnar, and soon he and Vildred were sucked inside the Tablet of Arcana like entering a wormhole. Inside this place, Khan regained control over his body, while a 10 meters tall figure of a white-bearded old man donning a white and golden ancient rank armor and a great sword appeared in front of them. This was Rathnar's true appearance in soul form. Let me show you. He looked at Vildred and spoke as a multicolored door appeared in front of them. The Chamber of Exaltation. Rathnar took both Khan and Vildred from the temporary blank white passage inside the Tablet of Arcana to the actual Chamber of Exaltation. And the next moment, all 3 of their figures appeared inside a completely different scenario, in a realm that was unfathomable and unknown to the outside world. And as they opened their eyes again, a vast and unbelievable scenery appeared in their sight. A new world composed of dozens of color, unforeseeable topography and combinations as if different galaxies were intertwined with each other, filled with tranquility came to be. There were 5 different layers akin to compartmentalized parameters of the sky, and each of them revealed a unique glow and glimmering lights from within. In these different layers of skies were dozens of different sections made of meteorites, each being as big as a mountain on its own while floating seamlessly inside the marvel of creation. Even someone like Vildred couldn't guess and fathom how vast this realm was, but based on instincts and his knowledge of the magic itself, he could tell that the world energy here was at least 5 times denser, purer and enriched than the outside world. And each section spread across this realm differed greatly based on laws of reality, elements and density of world energy. Something even the royal dragon hadn't seen existing all together at once. Also, these floating bodies in this place had thousands of ancient formations and mechanical constructs like ancient castles and fortresses that spanned for a few kilometers, where at the center were different training grounds and halls catering towards a particular field such as skill mastery or magic. Khan also sensed that one of those places was calling out to him through some indescribable connection, but for now, he kept his mouth shut. "This is a different chamber of exaltation than we used previously," he said, and looked at the old emperor, who now adjusted himself to the same size as theirs. "Yes, the one which simply converted SS rank cores after you poured them down in a glowing well was just a low-level section. This is the real chamber of exaltation, a realm created by a demigod sealed inside the tablet of Arcana," spoke Rathnar as he revealed the truth. Vildred, on the other side, was not only astonished, but his entire body was trembling. "So this is a work of a demigod, huh?" he questioned as his voice was full of uncertainty. "Yes, by my guess, it was made millions of years ago, and their civilization was probably more advanced than any current empires in Vantria. But they too were wiped out with annals of time, and now only this relic of the past remains," spoke Rathnar with a somber expression. "That's not all of it. This creation of that demigod kept evolving on its own, gathering world energy for who knows how long. And now this realm upgraded itself. This place is simply unreal," spoke Vildred, the magic and world energy expert. "This is too much. No wonder you were so strong to even fight against us royal dragons." He spoke with an infuriated voice. "Because this chamber of exaltation, no, this realm of exaltation was something the world would go crazy for. What kind of dog's hit luck did Rathnar have to find something so invaluable like this? No wonder he was the only peak saint in the world in the past 2,000 years, despite being a human at that. There were only 2 humans in the history of Vantria who reached that level in billions of years since their world came to exist. One being Cravel, the first ever war deity who became a demigod over 10,000 years ago, while the second was Rathnar Whitlock, the founding emperor of the Rakos Empire. This was a feat even royal dragons couldn't achieve easily unless they lived for 3,000 to 5,000 years while stably progressing their strength and rank. Out of every new generation of royal dragons, not even one could cross that level to become an elder dragon. The current elder dragon Baltaras crossed that threshold after living for more than 12,000 years. And his real age, even Vildred had no idea. As for the chamber of exaltation which was left behind by one of such demigods, it was something even Vildred, the former emperor of the Dragon Empire, greatly envied. It's completely different than the Mask of Eternity, but in a way, it's no less valuable. This type of thing will get you killed even by your own family," remarked the royal dragon. "All right, kid. Let me test my theory," spoke Rathnar. And soon, their figures flashed and appeared at the central circular chamber of one of such ginormous meteor-like constructs, emanating a green glow even through the walls and the floor. "Try using harnessing here," ordered the Peak Saint. Khan put millions of SS rank cores from his space ring in sections akin to a cauldron-like objects. In just a few seconds, it started rotating white, revealing bright yellow light as it steadily converted those cores into visible world energy that soon spread into the chamber. Khan also started coalescing world energy in the environment like Romulus taught him. But this time, Khan's body was able to process it properly and regulate faster from the pathways opened by Romulus without hurting him in any way or his body exploding. "No wonder. The Fenrirborn taught you correctly. But the key difference was that none of us noticed that your physiology was already changed because you previously used that normal chamber before you became a first-stage saint. In the end, you became twice stronger than others just like I was back then. He stated after affirming his theory. How was that blocking me from practicing harnessing then? Asked Khan in his Atrus persona. Since the base of your physiology as a saint was changed, you're unable to use small bits of natural world energy because your body is too strong in the outside world and the world energy in the environment is too dispersed as well as volatile to resonate with your transformed physique. Hence, you were unable to control it for longer and ended up in failure no matter how hard you tried. Explained the peak saint. Rathnar was the most knowledgeable person regarding the uses of the Chamber of Exaltation and its impact on the body of those who used it. There was a time even his descendants used the Tablet of Arcana under his guidance to become the emperors and empresses of Rocco's empire. But Khan was a different case than all of them, and Rathnar never had a chance to train anyone outside of the tablet, so he too was unable to discern the difference at the start. From now on, you must practice it inside the Chamber of Exaltation. The outside world energy from the real world is simply too weak and volatile for you to use for harnessing. He stated. But right at that moment, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, Vildred suddenly started laughing with an elated expression. This place, there's no doubt about it, he said with a greedy expression, almost salivating. This is the most perfect place in the entire world to teach you magic. After he declared his intentions, Vildred explained why this place is better than the outside world to study magic. Because of the composition, this place is best for you to quickly stabilize your world energy reserves. If I keep you teaching inside this place, we will actually cover everything there is to it by 3 times quicker. He iterated with a joyous smile. And once you learn harnessing, I will be able to speed up your training as well, which will further enhance what you've learned from Romulus. He said frantically. Do you mean? Even Khan had his eyes wide open as he sensed a great possibility. Yes, not only will you be able to become 3 times stronger than you already are as a physical class fighter, but you will also become a mage with more latent talent and potential, proclaimed the royal dragon. But things just don't end here. If you manage to incorporate the advantages of any of these training modes with the other, you will benefit the other field of training as well. He stated as if he was going mad with excitement. Can you elaborate? Asked Khan with a puzzled countenance. What I mean is once you excel in complementing both physical fighting skills and magic spells along with the knowledge of each other, you will become many times stronger than the current you. He said and looked at Khan with an ominous expression as if he was looking at a test subject. For now, you can only fight 2 ranks above you because of your war deity body and many other abilities you received from monsters and their bloodlines. But if you succeed in mixing both sides' techniques, you will not only be able to fight 3 ranks above, you will simply dominate the opponent. He revealed a conjecture. Because by then, you will basically lord over the world energy in the outside real world. The Dragon Emperor gave his analysis. Isn't that basically? Asked Khan with a baffled voice. Correct. If you utilize the Chamber of Exaltation in the way I mentioned, spoke Vildred with a smug grin. It's exactly the same effect as my Sage of Preservation class. After ascertaining a few hypotheses and possible outcomes, Khan started his strict and disciplined training to master the harnessing technique in order to elevate his strength to a different level. This time, he was able to form the first layer of harnessed world energy and let it touch his body without exploding as an aftermath. Now, the natural world energy inside this section of the Chamber of Exaltation, which was a different realm on its own and his body were like a single entity, forming a sense of codependency. This time, his blessing called the combat techniques mastery given by the war deity also helped him a lot. Hey! Wouldn't the natural world energy from the outside world oppose me if it tried to control it? He diverted his gaze towards the royal dragon who was overseeing the practice. No, because that world energy is 5 times weaker compared to this one. Once you learn how to properly command it from me, I will teach you how to perfectly integrate it with your skills and spells. Then, you will be able to absorb it at great speed and condense it to make it similar to the one here. Eventually, It will become the same as the world energy inside this realm, and your skills, spells and attacks will be 5 times stronger than their maximum capacity," iterated the Lightning Dragon Emperor. "However, it will take a lot of time and practice, so don't think anything will be easy," he said, but the very next moment, boom! Khan suddenly exploded as his entire body sprawled on the ground as chunks of flesh and bones spread on the floor after he lost focus while conversing with the royal dragon. Thankfully, his dimensional shift was in active mode, so his heart and brain were safe enough for him to regenerate again. Passive circulation wasn't still achieved by Khan. Vildred was going to teach him this ability after Khan met a few criteria first. As for this sudden explosion, this wasn't the first time. Even if the world energy inside the Chamber of Exaltation wasn't hostile, it was still running at supersonic speed, and Khan was absorbing it through his pathways opened by Romulus. If the speed and mismatched control went out of route, his body would still explode like petrol meeting fire. His current mastery could hardly be said to be 1% compared to what Romulus could achieve. So this was still expected. Yet, this was more of a reality check. 1 week later, "He's in that zone again," explained Rathnar to Vildred while both gazed at Khan, who was now in a state of trance while subconsciously practicing the harnessing technique. Rathnar was familiar with this scenario as he had seen it before. "What zone?" queried the sage. "The last time he was like this, he was learning blacksmithing skills in the Vulcan Empire from a dwarf," revealed the Peak Saint. This current situation was exactly similar to the state of mind when Khan was focused on becoming a saint blacksmith and trained day and night under Throck Oakenshield in the Fire Empire. "Let's not disturb him. He is very tenacious and a hard worker when he enters that state," commended the first emperor. 1 month later, Romulus revealed an elated expression after one of Atrus aka Khan's attacks finally managed to crack his protective barrier that even the dimensional cut couldn't damage in the slightest. "Good. I don't know how you did it, but this result is welcomed. Even I took close to 3 months to get on the same level as you in mastering harnessing technique," praised the Red Wolfkin aka the Heavenly King. Against him, Atrus stood tall while using glowing blue aura enshrouding his fists like boxing gloves on both his arms, shins, and feet. Although he expected Khan to be faster because of the blessings from Cravel, it was still way quicker than his previous anticipation. What he didn't know was that the Chamber of Exaltation played a big factor in it as well. However, Khan didn't achieve it just because he was using the Chamber of Exaltation. Like Romulus said, it should have taken him at least 3 months. But to make up for it, in the past month, Khan didn't eat anything or even slept for a single night. He had tried and failed thousands of times while forming each new layer and perfecting his control. His body had blown up to mangled flesh more than 2,000 times already. Each time, he regenerated to his former state and carried on the training to the point that even Vildred felt like Khan had lost his mind and turned off his brain receptors for fear and pain. Khan hadn't spent a single moment outside of the daily training by Romulus and perfecting himself inside the chamber. And finally, his unwavering resolve yielded this result, which would have taken other normal people more than half a year, even if someone so talented and skillful as Romulus was teaching them. Vildred and Rathnar were also proud of this result. Because one thing that was common between Rathnar, Vildred, and Romulus were that they didn't become the strongest just by working hard. If only hard work was the key to success, then millions of people would have become saints and thousands of them would be peak saints already. The other and most important factor in becoming truly strong was the disciplined mindset. Becoming an ascetic to achieve your goals, forgetting hunger and sleep while losing the track of time to achieve your mission was the one trait common among the peerless geniuses. And Khan proved himself to be one of such ascetics and abstinent people of the world, making his mental resolve and endurance reaching even greater levels than before. His unceasing efforts finally yielded fruit. And now seeing his changes, even Romulus was content. Because the current Khan had achieved exceptional results as mastery was at 100% and Khan could not only form over 100 layers of harnessed world energy without getting blown up to bits, he could do it on both arms and legs at the same time. On top of it, he could also apply it to the grappling extensions coming out of his body. They were definitely going to be his aces during a life-and-death battle as a surprise element. Good. Now that you have learned the first step, it's time I teach you how to use harnessing to fight. Harnessing is just like picking up a sword. In a way, you have a lethal weapon in hand. Now, I will teach you how to swing that sword, which leads us to the second stage. Proclaimed the Fenrirborn Saint as he revealed the next step of Khan's training. The conceptualization. After revealing the name of the second technique that Romulus intended to teach Khan, both of their figures suddenly appeared inside a new dimension. Here, there was nothing but a metallic floor with no end and a vast sky with no clouds. There wasn't a single construct, soil, trees, or anything but pure and unimpeded plain metal ground. As the name suggests, it's about conceptualizing and turning your thoughts into reality. Spoke the Red Wolfkin. Summon that dragon strike skill of yours without using harnessing. He ordered. Khan followed the instructions and summoned the 500 meters long and 100 meters wide greatsword made of 5 different elements in this surrounding with no end. Add the darkness element, said the peak 7th stage saint. And as soon as Khan did so, the aura exuded by the ginormous greatsword became 3 times stronger than before. Attack in that direction, commanded the Wolfkin. Slash. Bang! This time, visible marks of a massive sword slashing spread, and the area of destruction was 3 kilometers in total length. Now summon a new one, but using harnessing techniques, ordered Romulus. It took Khan some time but managed to create one without faults. Moreover, this time, the greatsword was emanating a gravely dangerous aura and suppressive force. Even Khan could tell that it felt much more powerful. Attack on the opposite side. Slash. Bang. This time, Khan was simply gobsmacked after seeing the output damage as the total length of destruction became 15 kilometers and 3 times wider than before. It's at least 5 times stronger and more powerful in attack power and damage output. He spoke with a flabbergasted expression. Why? He asked the Heavenly King. Because although Khan could achieve such a result based on his rank as a 4th stage saint even before Romulus took him under his tutelage, he'd have to use multiple of his abilities such as Draconian Bloodline, Dracos Armor, Azura Mode, and Shura Mode. All of them needed to be in effect to achieve such a result, and if he added the Hero of Darkness title in the mix, the attack could reach up to 24 kilometers at his current strength level. But this attack, it achieved that degree of strength and range with just a simple attack even without using any single of those. In simple words, Khan could now destroy 15 kilometers of the area just with a simple dragon strike. And if he used all those abilities and his title altogether, maybe decimating 50 kilometers of area won't be a problem if he went all out. But the biggest and obvious decisive factor here was the effect of the harnessing technique taught by Romulus. Wait a minute. If someone like me who's only a 4th stage saint can go this far using harnessing technique, then how much can you destroy as 7th stage saint? Asked Khan with an astonished gaze. Someone like you? Brat, stop being ignorant. If I taught my disciples this ability, even they can't do more than 30 kilometers of damage. You're a chosen hero with too many abilities and skills. As for me, theoretically, it should be close to 80 kilometers if I go all out. But there are always external factors such as impact absorbing and impeding the damage range and stuff. So the total damage and range are short-lived considering outside factors. Iterated the master with a stern voice. Alas, you understand why I taught you harnessing first, right? He asked with a smug grin. Khan nodded in response. Good. Because harnessing is just the basic foundation for the next step. Now make that sword again. He ordered again. But this time, Romulus also summoned a sword of his own but with fire element. Now summon another weapon made of world energy. Khan then summoned a bow. You could summon them because you're experienced with their use, shape, and techniques, right? Asked Romulus as if leading to another piece of information he was to reveal. So in a way, you conceptualizing them was the driving factor when summoning. However, my summoning wasn't done on the same method as yours. He explained and gave another command. Try switching their shape, he ordered. Khan was slightly taken aback. That can be done? he asked with a baffled tone. He tried, but all his attempts failed. Instead, both of his summoned weapons broke apart and exploded, making Khan receive a strong backlash. However, this was how Romulus always trained him. He let Khan taste the consequences of failing first so the latter will be vigilant while training. Now look here. Soon, the 1-kilometer-tall sword summoned by Romulus made of fire using harnessing suddenly weakened and dispersed like a cloud of smoke. But instead of breaking or exploding and causing a backlash to Romulus, the fire flew like free water and swirled around in the sky. And soon, under Romulus' command, the shape changed and it turned into a long halberd with a fiery curved blade. How? Asked Khan, stupefied. Because first, suddenly transforming your summoned weapon was the first time Khan had seen anyone do so far. Second, the sword and halberd were both created using harnessing technique. Here, world energy condensation and manipulation were very dangerous and could end up in a devastating explosion if you messed up the technique in the slightest. Yet Romulus casually achieved both features in just a couple of seconds. The Wolfkin then changed the shapes and turns them into multiple weapons at will. To flex, he summoned 10 more weapons and changed their shapes at will at random, controlling every single one of them. What's the difference? Asked Khan. I'm not actually changing the summoned weapon. Rather, I command the harnessed world energy before the weapons were even summoned. On the outside, it looks like a sword or a halberd, but actually, it's like floating elemental energy, always moving and unpredictable inside that shape. The moment I think about reforming its shape, it becomes whatever I want. In a way, it's similar to water. Iterated the Wolfkin solemnly. How? Queried Khan again. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle and it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. He spoke in a tone filled with wisdom. Conceptualization isn't about summoning, controlling, or maintaining. It's about becoming the water. He spoke and explained the truth behind the technique. Have no form, shape, or restriction. Romulus gave his insight into the conceptualization technique that seemed as the next evolution of harnessing. And his wisdom of using water as a reference and applying its properties while studying and learning it opened a new path for Khan. How do I change that? He queried sternly. Before that, know this fact. Even many 7th-stage saints in the world can't use harnessing and conceptualization. Apart from our current empress, I haven't seen anyone else also do it inside the Nader Empire. And she is also a true descendant like me. But she uses her mastery over her bloodline and a law she has been practicing for decades to use them. That is not the case for me or you, he iterated. Then how can you do that? Asked Khan curiously. Because I'm the apostle of slaughter, which played a vital role in me learning conceptualization, as I can use any weapon in the world and master them if I train enough. And since you're the apostle of war deity who can also wield different weapons and gain perfect mastery in them because of the blessings you received, this technique is the most fitting one for you in the long run compared to the other ones I know. He explained. Now that you have mastered harnessing, this sets up a solid foundation for conceptualization. In a way, we have already saved half the time. He spoke, and soon, his domineering aura permeated this vast dimension with the metallic floor. Follow my instructions. Create a sword. Purposely weaken it to 30% of its density. He commanded. Khan followed the instructions and did exactly as his master ordered. Hold right there. Now think about another weapon. Instructed the heavenly king. Khan then imagined a dagger and tried to change its shape slowly. 1 hour later, Khan was sweating heavily and had a headache at this point. Yet in the end, he finally managed to transform the whole sword into a dagger. Nicely done. It didn't explode on the first try, spoke the Fenrirborn with a pleased expression. But the fact remained unchanged that what took Romulus just a couple of seconds took Khan an entire hour. Now condense it slowly and make it 100% denser. Do it steadily, otherwise it will blow you up. He gave a command. Khan used harnessing again to solidify the dagger. But he quickly noticed that while trying to do so, his world energy reserves were consumed and depleting. Why is this so harder than harnessing? All my world energy is mostly drained, questioned Khan while panting heavily as his forehead was full of sweat. Because to make adjustments, your body is subconsciously using extra world energy reserves, explained Romulus. Wouldn't that be a big problem? Because it will deplete twice my reserves during a battle, spoke Khan. Not exactly. This is happening because your current control is negligible. The more proficient you become, the less unnecessary world energy will be consumed, said the Red Wolfkin, reassuring his mentee. Another half an hour later, finally Khan was done reaching 100% manifestation and the dagger was completely at its full capacity. Now, you can use this method to change the shapes of any element you have, create weapons and then shift their shapes. But that's not the end. Since you have so many affinities with different elements, unlike me who only has fire affinity, he spoke with a grin. No way. Don't tell me, spoke Khan with his eyes full of disbelief. Romulus then replied with a smile. Yes, you can change the shape of the weapon and element at will, he declared merrily. Khan, on the other end, was simply discombobulated. Why? Because this meant that he could use conceptualization to change the shape and element of the weapon at will. He could turn a water sword into a fire bow, an earth elemental spear into a darkness elemental shield at will during a battle. Based on the situation during the battle and the elemental affinity of the opponent, Khan can now turn the whole battle in his favor instantly. If someone thought he was a water-ice elemental warrior and they could attack or kill him because they themselves were lightning or fire elemental fighters, Khan could suddenly turn his water attacks and summon shape of the weapon into a darkness elemental one to completely overpower and decimate them before the enemy could even react. It was like the most harmless attack coming your way, the one you were fully confident of neutralizing easily. But then it instantly turned into the most lethal strike that you don't have a way to defend against. This would simply be a nightmare for Khan's enemies during battle. If harnessing was OP, then conceptualization was like a super upgraded version of it which added a tremendous tactical advantage. Ha ha ha! This is genius! Exclaimed Khan with an elated expression. And yet, I haven't received a thank you, master, for planning such an amazing training route for you, said Romulus while folding his arms together. Khan held both his fists together and bowed in respect, because Romulus had indeed created a great path for him that no one else would have done for Khan in this world. There are 3 more techniques after this, but I can't teach them until you master conceptualization. And not only that, I need you to be able to control it so well that you can even summon dozens of weapons at will and then change their shapes and elements in a matter of seconds without the slightest mistake. He commended in a thoughtful voice. I will do so, master, obliged Khan. 1 week later, Khan is struggling greatly. His time was reduced to 30 minutes in using conceptualization for a single weapon. But his master was barely 10% even now. Still, it was many times better than his first attempt. Although he carefully followed every step, this technique was more complex because every weapon shape and element he used to create them had different densities, viscosity, permeability, attack power, malleable properties, and varying nature when conjuring and transforming them. Even if Khan met the condition to use this technique, it was completely different from harnessing technique because the latter was only the foundation. Looks like I have no choice but to keep using it, thought Khan and spoke with Rathnar, revealing his worries. An hour later, Khan entered the Chamber of Exaltation again. There is a particular section that will greatly aid your training to master this technique, spoke Rathnar, impressed by what Romulus taught Khan since he himself couldn't practice this technique when he was alive. After some time they reached a platform in the center of multicolored cloud-like creations that dazzled with ethereal and otherworldly aura, as if different aspects of reality were coming together. The facility in the center itself looked like the linchpin that joined these different aspects. This cloud-like section is something you won't find in the outside world. It's called, spoke the Peak Saint as he revealed the best place for Khan to master conceptualization. Convergence of reality. Khan gazed at the multicolored cloud-like section that spanned 5 kilometers in radius alone, filled with a variety of elements of reality, including darkness and chaos in the mix. Unlike how it usually happened, these elements didn't cause some sort of natural disaster or odd occurrence that could be seen as dangerous. There were other elements of reality, but Khan had no idea what purpose did they have, and he couldn't even feel them properly. You're too weak to do anything about them, as you lack enough enlightenment in the law of magic. Just focus on the normal ones you can sense for now, spoke Rathnar to the amazed Khan. As per his instructions, Khan flew towards the epicenter where a circular formation of a stone-like ancient mechanism appeared, and he sat there in a meditative position. I brought you here because this is the only place inside the Chamber of Exaltation that can help you harness and experience all different elements at a rapid pace. Although you have many elemental affinities and skills, they're just makeshift and temporary. You don't actually have any mastery other than for darkness and water element. His majestic voice reverberated in the surroundings. You don't even know how to use chaos element despite having the true demon bloodline yourself. Also, your mastery over the darkness element is barely passable despite having the highest affinity to it. He spoke the harsh truth in front of Khan from the get-go, reminding the latter how truly weak he was compared to real native powerhouses and experts of Vantria. For this conceptualization study, this place is the best for understanding and utilizing them, since the convergence of reality has access to all of the elements in the world. And using harnessing, you will have an unlimited supply for practicing as well. Revealed Rathnar about why he brought Khan here of all the different sections inside the chamber. Back then, I also used this place to perfect my skills. But unlike you, I had only one element. He iterated solemnly. Which element and law did you use? Queried Khan. I don't remember. That part of memories is sealed with the other half of my soul. He revealed nonchalantly. Smart. You sealed all the important and useful information with the other half along with the secret of becoming a demigod, said Khan with an almost complaining voice. Back to the topic. Sit there and I will tell you a chant. Use it to activate the whole setup and you will become the one in charge of this section till you're practicing, said the peak saint. Anak Jutva Kafk Oligwakio Sanvar Alaskan. Khan repeated the exact same words, and soon, he started feeling changes in his body. Dozens of runes emerged from the floor. He sat on and quickly imprinted themselves on various parts, as if becoming one with his physique. Khan on the other end suddenly felt like his body was filled with unimaginable energy, and his mind became hazy with too much pressure. Soon, he felt that most of his elemental affinities were barely on the surface level compared to the quality and quantity of the ones spread across this section. Even his darkness element was hardly at 50% capacity despite him being the representative of the god of darkness. Man, I really need to perfect myself in so many things. Otherwise, I will forever stay ignorant and get smacked over by everyone. He thought and sighed with a helpless expression. Ding! After months of silence, the system suddenly notified him. Congratulations to the host for improving body-mind connection with mana, world, and elements of reality. All elemental affinities except light raised by 10%. Heh? What the hell is that? I got a boost just by staying here for a while, wondered Khan with a bewildered countenance. This chamber of exaltation is indeed one of a kind in the entire world. My luck was simply truly great to find it in Rocco's empire, he said, and started focusing on the connection with various elements he felt through those archaic runes embedded in his physique. He then activated all the abilities he received from Solomon and the elven bloodline provided him, which were greatly beneficial to sense elements in the world. In the upcoming moments, all the elements except light and lightning started surging towards his body and got absorbed at his will. However, he suddenly opened his eyes as a covetous grin appeared on his face. Khan Greedy Salvatore was a smart man and always made the best use of opportunities when he came across them. And now, he wanted to use this environment to maximize the effect for the conceptualization technique. Swoom! Out of nowhere, four black wormholes appeared and started sucking in the abundance of the elements converging in this section as Khan activated the Energy Plunderer skill. Even Rathnar was surprised after seeing this progression. This brat! He's hacking the rules again. He rolled his eyes again with an exasperated face. Khan then summoned the Dragon Strike and started using conceptualization to change its shape to turn it into a different weapon. Yet this time, his control became at least 3 times more stable than all his previous attempts. Good. If this carries on, I will be able to reduce the training period by months and yield results without too many failures. He thought and let out a smug smile. At this exact moment, a brutal scene came to be a few 100,000 kilometers away in a different empire. In front of the corpse of a saint, stood a young man around the same age as Khan. His eyes were full of ruthlessness and also elation at the same time. "Good riddance," spoke this person under a golden yellow hood. "This bastard was going to become one of those who opposed me in the future. But his death won't cause the butterfly effect and change the timeline since he didn't play any pivotal role in the important decisions. I must let events happen the way they did last time so I can properly use the knowledge of the future to benefit me greatly," spoke this person under the hood whose face couldn't be seen. "With this core and the dual-core incorporation technique I learned in the future, I will be able to become a 5th-stage saint before the conclave of heroes and even make my domain of chronokinesis many times more powerful than before," he said in an elated voice. "Next, I will have to form to trap and kill Khan Salvatore before he finds the hero of darkness during the conclave. And once I succeed," he spoke with an ominous aura and revealed true intentions, "I will become the overlord of that place with 3 divine keys." Unbeknownst to him, the hero of time was planning to kill Khan with the knowledge of future events while making enough preparations to trap the latter. Meanwhile, Khan kept training in conceptualization and his grasp over this technique started increasing steadily. Inside the Chamber of Exaltation, Khan managed to perform the technique on 1 weapon within a minute after 2 weeks of hard effort in increasing his proficiency. "Phew!" Khan exhaled in an exhausted voice as he leaned on the floor. "This is still so taxing on my mind. If the old me from Rocco's empire was doing this, he wouldn't have even managed to reach this stage in half a year," he said inside. Unlike harnessing the complexity of conceptualization, especially when changing different elements into one another while reforming the shape of the weapon was simply too demanding. Although he shortened the time required by tons, he was still unable to stop the excessive consumption of his world energy reserves. Khan met Romulus the next day and showed him the results of his training. "This is way faster than I imagined. But still, you have a long way to go," spoke the Heavenly King while perfectly hiding his surprise from seeing this result. "How are you doing this?" he suddenly asked with a curious gaze. "I'm teaching the kid." Suddenly, Rathnar spoke in the Wolfkin's mind steps. The Peak Saint decided to step in and cover up for Khan at this moment, because this was the only safe and believable reason they could come up with. The Chamber of Exaltation was a secret that not many people in the world knew of, and they couldn't wholeheartedly trust Romulus even if he was an ally. In the real world, everyone had their own secrets. Secrets that even blood brothers, husbands and wives, as well as most trusted confidants shouldn't know about. Some secrets were meant to be taken with you inside the grave. Thus, Rathnar gave an acceptable truth to Romulus. After hearing the reason, even the Wolfkin was convinced. Because Rathnar was the peak saint of Vantria whose knowledge and prowess exceeded everyone else in the world at one point in history. And if he was also helping Khan at the same time, then his drastic and successive progression of the mastery of harnessing and conceptualization would be least surprising. Hell, if Khan couldn't even do this much, then Rathnar's name would be tarnished instead. Good. At this rate, I can teach him everything before the time to depart comes, thought Romulus. Although he was doing it out of obligation and coercion by the Revenant Sovereign, he too had a few expectations of his own and hadn't held back in grooming Khan to become a fearless warrior. 1 month later, Khan showed up one day and gave a demo of his mastery in the same dimension with the vast metallic floor. He summoned a sword and turned it into a shield by expanding size while turning this earth elemental sword into a darkness elemental shield in just 5 seconds. But this wasn't the end of his newly achieved mastery either. One after another, he summoned up to 5 weapons: sword, dagger, bow, spear, and gauntlet. I'm only proficient in using these many, He spoke and displayed his proficiency. I need to learn other weapons and their combat techniques to conceptualize them properly. He iterated while swiftly changing their shapes and size within a couple of seconds. Although he wasn't on Romulus level, this result was something many couldn't achieve even after practicing for 2 to 3 years. Khan had entered the zone again for conceptualization in the past month. This time, it wasn't his body that did the work but his mind. Because of this hard training regime, his mind and comprehensive abilities also enhanced greatly. Romulus nodded in approval as this was more than enough. Good. But now, I will halt your training before I teach you the next technique. He declared somberly. Why? Asked Khan with a puzzled expression. Because your foundation is extremely solid now. But the next technique requires you to have at least Saint rank mastery and skills in all the weapons I can teach you. Until you become a Saint rank fighter in all of them, I can't teach you the next steps. He revealed in a stern tone. Khan nodded as he understood that some steps couldn't be skipped. Even now, apart from swordsmanship, Khan didn't have a single weapon skill and mastery at Saint rank. Thus, he was already not utilizing his blessings. But since he never had a proper teacher to begin with, his training in other weapons halted at Grandmaster level and couldn't progress any further. However, you no longer need to train day and night. Only 3 to 5 hours per day as your body gets used to the combat technique and weapons with time, said the red wolfkin with glowing red archaic tattoos all over his torso. So now you can allocate your time to the dragon when you aren't practicing the weapons. He commended. In a way, he meant that it was time for Khan to learn magic. Khan returned to his villa where Vildred was meditating quietly. Romulus says it's time for me to start studying the law of magic, he informed the royal dragon. I see. I thought it would take longer for you to master those techniques. Anyway, before we begin, I need to make the bond. He spoke. Bond? What bond? Aren't we already bonded through the contract of familiarity? Asked Khan in a confused voice. However, Vildred shook his head and spoke. We dragons have our own customs. We can't take in a disciple just through mere words. For us, a mentee is a lifetime commitment. He revealed. First, I need you to make the offering. Only then I will be your master, and you will be my disciple, spoke the sage of preservation in a solemn tone. What is the offering then? Queried Khan. Just then, Rathnar informed in Khan's mind, the offering is the one thing that dragons see as their sign of pride. I don't know the details, but dragons don't usually take disciples even in their own species or families. They don't have some sort of magic academy or a system to train smaller dragons or their descendant species. Mainly because their species and even those who carry their bloodlines have naturally strong physiques and affinity to mana and world energy. Explained Rathnar. Vildred never had one either. But there is a ritual called Oath of Pride. And the offering he speaks of requires you to give something you take the most pride in. Only that would be seen as the acknowledgement of the bond between a mentor and a mentee. Revealed the Peak Saint. How do you know this? Asked Khan with a suspicious tone. When I was a second stage saint before the Rakos Empire was even formed, I came across a superior dragon who was a swordsman in his humanoid form. But back then, I had nothing to offer him because I was just a military officer for a noble. Explained Rathnar while revealing some of his past. What do I take the most pride in? Khan asked himself because he too was lost. I don't have anything I'm prideful of. I don't have a clan, family, or something I feel connected to the most. I'm a young man in his prime who got rid of his previous life's traumas and insecurities just a few months ago. So pride is the last thing I can possess. He said in a reluctant voice. This was the truth. No matter how strong Khan became and how greedy or materialistic he was, he didn't attach enough value to anything or anyone else in his new life so far. There was no object or even person he took pride in having. Simply, he was never a prideful person to begin with, since he always acted based on circumstances to protect himself first. He thrashed his opponents when he could afford to do so without having dire consequences and bowed to someone many times stronger to avoid getting his identity exposed or his life getting sacrificed because of some foolish ego. What do I take pride in? He asked himself again with conflicted emotions. Even his legendary rank weapons and armors didn't fit the bill, and nor did something like Rathnar's core or Tablet of Arcana was close to his heart. After almost 10 minutes of deep thinking, Khan's eyes gleamed with confidence as he came to a final conclusion. In front of Vildred, he knelt on one knee and summoned Lucifer in his right hand. "My most prized possession," spoke Khan in an adamant tone, but the very next second, swing, he swung Lucifer over his neck. Thud! His headless body dropped on the floor after this greatsword made a clean cut. In the upcoming moments, Khan used psychokinesis and his head floated towards Vildred as drops of blood sprayed over the floor. Vildred on the other end revealed a pleased countenance and smiled, content with this offering. "Is my intelligence?" Vildred revealed a pleased smile as Khan offered his head. This was probably the most bizarre thing he had done in this new life, and also the most absurd offering one could present to someone who was to become their master. The royal dragon on the other end seemed ecstatic, as if this was something within his expectations. "What a narcissistic and arrogant bastard," he spoke as he gazed at Khan's floating head in front of him. "Worthy to become my pupil. Ha ha ha!" His loud voice resounded inside this ancient rank formation called the Shadow Realm that isolated their entire existence from the outside. A yellow rune suddenly appeared on Khan's forehead and disappeared the next moment. "The oath of pride is established. You're now officially my first disciple," declared Vildred. He had no doubt in Khan's conviction when he said that the most prized possession which he was proud of being none other than his intelligence. As for why Khan said so, even though Khan was extremely lucky as a chosen hero and had the opportunity to select his own divine abilities, he didn't just become a fourth-stage saint solely because of them. Whether becoming an entrepreneur, running a business empire, being the sovereign of Verlassen and a mercenary guild, none of it was achieved with solely his divine abilities. And even the battles with legendary and mythical rank monsters along with the hero's party members as well as Hero of Fire were won only because Khan formed strategies and used whatever assets, plans and abilities he had to come out as the final victor. Recently, all the effort he put in blacksmithing skills and now harnessing as well as conceptualization were also achieved by his intelligence, which grasped them quickly, which practicing them for months without sleep or eating anything. Others would have gone mad in his place, but Khan kept persevering until he succeeded. No matter what price he had to pay or torture, he had to suffer to mastering them in order to become strong. This was why he claimed his intelligence as the only thing he was proud of. A sage like Vildred, who had fought and seen many powerful people including chosen heroes, has his insight about Khan, so he had already figured out this to be the undeniable truth. Hence, the Dragon Emperor did not dwell or counteract Khan's statement, and accepted him as his disciple in mere moments. He sent back Khan's head back to its place as the latter's body reattached quickly. For us dragons, pride is one thing that is common among all of us. And when you try to enter someone's tutelage, it is demanded that you let go of your pride. It's not disregarding their identity but showing their conviction. That you can let go of your pride to receive your master's teachings and wisdom, explained Vildred, the sage of preservation. Khan nodded and bowed in respect. "Tell me your views on mana and world energy. Be detailed this time," he spoke. Khan then revealed his opinion based on his experience on both Earth and Vantria. Just like on Earth, where atoms created matter, magic was the binding force that was present along with these atoms. But given the amount of magic that was present in this world and its density present in nature itself, it was completely negligible. Since the external force itself was so dense, many living creatures didn't even feel any magic present inside their own bodies. And because of that, a very small amount of inhabitants in this world could use magic. Let it be a magician or a swordsman, all of them had to use magic as a form of medium to perform their skills' abilities. But only the ones who had the affinity towards mana, a condensed form of magical energy, could efficiently use them. And by either utilizing mana ores or monster cores, they could raise their levels and then raise their affinity, physical strength, and compatibility with the mana itself. Even if you belonged to a physical class job or had physical traits that made you strong, mana was the main driving force behind it, which made your physique far stronger than someone without any access to mana ever could. and that's why those who could use and manipulate it were like powerhouses more than those who couldn't. Even a beginner fighter class was stronger than 10 beings of their species and race. And the key difference was mana, which made it possible. This law also applied to monsters, other magical creatures and beings in the world. Just that they didn't go through some test but rather lived it as if it didn't matter. For them, rising in levels and rank meant an increase in physical growth and abilities. And the higher the rank, the more evolved creatures they would be. In Vantria, you must have the core knowledge and understanding of the type of element you were using to cast a spell. For example, if you wanted to cast a water-related spell, you must study and understand the mana signature of these elements. Just like how DNA inside every human differentiated them from others of their species. Then use that knowledge to adjust and manipulate the mana you had access to for matching the properties of these elements. After your mastery over mana manipulation over that element increased, you could ingrain the same composition in a spell. So that way, as long as you have enough understanding and experience of a particular element, you could cast spells related to it and then increase your mastery. But since Khan's foundation itself was non-existent when it came to magic and knowledge of mana manipulation, all the magical skills he had by absorbing others were like a house of cards, easy to break with a small breeze. Due to his levels and rank, they were far more deadly to many people he faced till now. And this was the main reason why Solomon had completely suppressed him during their fight, just with 4 different types of elemental attacks. Compared to the elven mage's spells, the ones Khan could use were like a sheet of paper facing a bullet. If someone like him was on Khan's levels, without the divine abilities and the other life-saving skills he had, solely based on their knowledge and mastery as magicians, Khan was still a juvenile. He then shared the list of abilities with Vildred through the system, the ones he got from the elf that he previously used to study magic back in Rathna, the capital of Rocco's empire. Elemental Fusion, A rank. Passive. Allows the host to create elemental mana orbs and use them as a source for elemental spells and long-range attacks. Elemental Transformation, S rank. Passive. Allows the host to transform the form of the elemental spells to another element. Casting time for magic spells reduced by 35%. Space Haste, A rank. Active. Allows the host to use space magic to travel to 1 kilometer space in any direction. The host is required to study and comprehend this ability. Replied the system in Vildred's mind. Idiot! That's the biggest and most damaging shortcut I've ever seen, shouted Vildred in exasperation. So you just use them without unlocking them by yourself because you absorbed all those skills and abilities using your divine abilities. You should have at least used that bloodline. By now, you would at least be at semi-saint magician. Berated the royal dragon. How? I have 0 control over any of the bloodlines I have since they're not my own. Even when I use their effects during battle, the system automatically activates them for me. I never had a chance to learn how to use them in the first place. He explained. Sigh. Vildred sighed and spoke in a helpless voice. Bloodlines and their effects are something that comes naturally. You don't have to focus on them. Well, you're a broken individual already since you are already a saint. But that's also a good thing for our current situation, he said in a royful tone. I won't have to wait for you to become a saint first, so I'll get to the first and most important criteria. He iterated solemnly. What is it? Asked Khan curiously. Isn't that obvious? It's enlightenment, he stated calmly. What you learned from that elf's books is indeed correct. However, that knowledge omitted one crucial factor. There is a certain degree of knowledge and enlightenment required to increase control over world energy and mana no matter which magical class it is. Only then you can become a saint for a magical class job, explained the lightning dragon. A summoner must make a breakthrough in his or her field of summoning magic and the creatures they created or forms of attacks they summoned from the environment. An enchanter must receive enlightenment in casting magic formations and rune magic and using them to summon attacks or reinforcement of their own skills and spells. A magician or sorceress must use the world energy to convert them into elements at will from the surrounding world itself, and then use them as base to cast their spells and skills. In all three cases, you need to receive enlightenment first to move forward as you progress in your rank. Otherwise, he revealed a crucial factor that Khan had no idea about. Your soul will extinguish. Vildred suddenly revealed a terrifying fact that Khan had no idea about even now. This information wasn't mentioned in any books he read regarding magic either. Not because it was some sort of taboo, but because Khan was probably the first ever person in the world of Vantria to have accomplished this without the standard approach. Many who unlock these magic jobs and classes must cross these thresholds of natural affinity, bloodlines, and enlightenment to adapt and overcome their body's restrictions. This is different from physical classes who need to train in their respective weapons, combat techniques, and break past their limits, as well as achieve overwhelming talent and skill in their respective profession. Only then you can become a saint magician or so. His stern voice reverberated in the room. Because of your divine abilities, you already unlocked the body strong enough to endure these transformations and ability to withstand world energy, which allowed you to directly use these skills and spells, something that shouldn't be happening in the first place. He iterated in a domineering tone. Although you have already met the physical conditions, your mind and soul are not tempered enough in the magic field, and that is why, despite your blessings, you still haven't been able to get past the intermediate Grandmaster stage in Law of Magic ever after all these years. But even so, you too need to receive enlightenment for your body and soul to form that synergy and become a saint magician. He spoke, explaining how serious this situation was. Khan was mortified that all this time, there was a risk of his soul getting destroyed. The next moment, Rathnar also spoke in Khan's mind. Even the war deity Cravel had to follow this rule when he perfected magic and all elemental spells before becoming a demigod. His blessings are useful in achieving that feat as well. However, your divine abilities are far more powerful and terrifying as well. It has given you way too many shortcuts till now. Shortcuts that go against the laws of nature itself. The Peak Saint offered his insight. So, in a way, you're lucky that you still haven't directly become a saint in any magic class. Otherwise, your soul wouldn't have been able to withstand the imbalance of soul and body, as you would have basically skipped too many steps. And the end result would be destruction, declared the royal dragon. Khan was petrified once again. Turns out that him still being only an intermediate Grandmaster magician actually kept Khan alive till this point. Vildred then asked in a somber tone, "So which class do you want to pursue?" To his query, Khan replied with a determined tone, "Enchanter and magician." Both Vildred and Rathnar had a skeptical expressions. "Summoner class is not my forte, and I can't create creatures and constructs out of nowhere without practicing for years. Learning from Romulus has already made it very clear to me." He gauged his reasoning. "However, thanks to him teaching me harnessing and conceptualization, my control over various elements and world energy has risen by 10-folds. Those are two classes I can also integrate with my fighting style, as you said before." He iterated and then continued with a thoughtful gaze. "Besides, I'm already a semi-saint artificer, as it was one of the conditions to become a saint blacksmith. Also, I have 3 blessings from the deities of blacksmithing. They can greatly help me in learning magic formations too. Like you said, I should start utilizing my blessings in the best way possible. With them, I can learn Enchanter class by mastering magic and runic formations quickly. As for the Magician class, thanks to the abilities I gained along with natural passive affinity to many elements from various monsters, whether legendary or mythical, I'll have fewer disadvantages while learning spells and attack skills." He revealed why he chose these 2 classes. "And if I did manage to get them integrated into my skills along with the ones taught by Romulus after gaining enlightenment, I can become terrifyingly powerful." He revealed a confident smile. But to his words, Vildred scoffed as if he heard a joke. "Gaining enlightenment, it's easier said than done." "Is that so? How many did you have then?" asked Khan. 5 enlightenments in Law of Magic," revealed the Sage of Preservation. "First enlightenment is enough to help you become a Grandmaster Mage. I'm sure you already had one yourself. Second, for essential to become a semi-saint. Third enlightenment is the minimum threshold to become a saint magician, enchanter, or summoner. Fourth is the prerequisite for a person, no matter which element or law they use, to become an archmage in their respective field. An archmage is extremely rare, the kind that is 1 in a billion people in our world. Revealed Vildred. And finally, the fifth and the final enlightenment. It helps you become a sage. He revealed a big ancient secret that was hidden from most of the world. Only very few people in Vantria were privy to this information. He speaks the truth, boy. So far there were only 3 sages I knew in my lifetime. One was Vildred, second being my friend Lesren Michelson, who was also called the first sage of Rocco's empire, the one you received my core from. If I wasn't present, he would definitely be the emperor instead of me. Back then, he was also titled Elemental Sovereign. A sovereign is a title given only to 9th stage saints in the world of Vantria. Explained the Peak Saint. As for the 3RD, it was a true demon who was also the apostle of blood deity. He too was a 9th stage saint. Many believed he was aiding the demon god over 1,000 years ago. Revealed Rathnar. Let me tell you something clear, boy. An archmage is akin to 4 saint mages of the same rank because of their control and inherent reserves of mana and world energy. And a sage is like 7 to 8 of such archmages combined. He revealed an astonishing fact. Even at 8th stage saint rank, a sage can go toe-to-toe against a 9th stage saint. On top of it, Vildred is a royal dragon at that. If Vildred reached peak 9th stage back then, he would be at least able to draw with me when I was peak saint, the strongest in the world. He stated without holding back. Khan was already aware of Vildred and Rathnar's ancient enmity. But even the peak saint himself admitted that a sage and royal dragon like Vildred would have become his match if he was a 9th stage saint magician. You're lucky that this old ancient freak of a royal dragon, who once stood at the peak of this field, has now accepted you as his disciple. Even ancient rank spells that take weeks and months to cast are not a big problem for him. So learn from him as much as you can. He advised. Khan nodded in response, fully acknowledging that his new master was indeed a worldwide terrifying existence. So what do I need to learn first? He asked. Well, you have already broken many rules and how one normally studies the law of magic. That's why I'll teach you differently in both these classes. He spoke. Next, they entered the Chamber of Exaltation and stopped at the convergence of elements where Khan mastered conceptualization before. This is the best place for you to learn, spoke the Dragon Emperor. How do we start? Vildred smirked and let out an ominous smirk. By overdosing. Khan stood stupefied at the convergence of elements. What did Vildred mean by overdosing? This is also the best way for me because once you become a 7th stage saint, I will also be able to rise my ranks rapidly and make up for my lost rank of an 8th stage saint. Once that happens, our contract will be fulfilled much quicker than spending decades for it. He revealed, without explaining anything to Khan. What do you mean by overdosing? Asked Khan in a suspicious tone. You're a unique case whose existence goes against all the normal people and even all the heroes who came before you, since no one else chose your divine abilities. Replied the sage. You are not a legitimate mage like me, and you still don't have a defined class because of your divine abilities even now. But this is a way for you to achieve a similar effect. His voice resounded in the chamber. Khan was perplexed because he could feel something dangerous was going to happen. Vildred spoke again in an insidious tone. The basic principle here is that I will forcefully increase all of your body's elemental affinities in one element at a time, and then we will balance them out with another element countering them. This way, your own elemental affinity to these elements will no longer be a problem in your breakthrough, and it won't hinder your progress or pose a requirement to master certain spells and magic formations or elemental attacks later. His voice echoed. So in a way, we will be using a shortcut instead of me naturally building up my affinity steadily in each element one by one? He questioned with a baffled expression. Correct. Since your body is already that of a saint and you have access to world energy and mana without even meeting the requirements in the first place, it can endure this surge of elements and then gradually raise your affinity. Revealed the Dragon Emperor. I sense a but coming. spoke Khan with an incredulous gaze. Vildred smirked and responded, "Naturally, it won't come without consequences." He spoke in a grim voice. "This surge will feel intoxicating."